Welcome to Recovery Unfiltered. I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic.
I am Rob. I am also an alcoholic. We are not professionals. There are no letters after our names. We know very little. However, you will hear the word God and a four-letter word in the same sentence. You will also be offended. So if you are easily offended, just pass us by. This podcast is not for you.
Our opinions are just that. If you don't agree with what we're saying, that's okay. We're going to love you anyways. We are not in any way affiliated with AA.
So sit back, grab a beverage of your choice, and get ready.
Let's go.
Hello, Rob.
Hi, Larry. Take two.
Take two. We had to stop right there. You know why we had to stop?
Because we always forget to pray. We have to go back and do it. And this time God stopped us.
He stopped the whole show. He shut the computer down that said, nope.
I love that.
It just hit the brakes. That was funny.
How we doing?
We're doing good. Hey, we're recording. We're live now. Hey, guess what I did?
What did you do?
I changed our email.
To?
It's recoveryunfilteredpodcast@gmail.com.
That's it.
That's it, brother.
No Rob in.
No.
One more time.
No, it's recoveryunfilteredpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you, McKenna.
No, that was Miranda.
Oh, it was?
It was the smarter of my two children.
Ooh.
Love you, Kenna. Yeah, no, we were sitting over here the other day. She goes, Dad, you got to do something about that email. I go, why, hon? She goes, it's too much and it's confusing. I'm sick and tired of hearing Rob say
the letter N.
The letter N. She goes, it's too much. So I said, okay. So I sat there and I looked at it. She goes, you got to do something like just podcast or something simple. So I wow. Recovery Unfiltered Podcast available. Sweet. Changed it. So I'll be changing all the social media and everything over. And I'm getting ready to launch a Facebook page and trying to get stuff a little bit more on the social media side. So
one more thing.
Hit me.
The sound on Brad and Grace's podcast, you did something to it.
Yeah, so I heard from several people the horror. Then I talked about the last podcast how I was making some changes and trying to strip stuff back and simplify everything like I did in the very beginning, because as Larry does, Larry digs into stuff and tries to make it just perfect. I listened to the Brad. It's episode 8, which is just Brad, you and I, discussing.
Okay, it wasn't the Brad and Grace one then.
No, it wasn't the Brad and Grace one. I didn't go that far back because that one I didn't think sounded too bad. Anyways, I listened to the Brad, Rob, and Larry show, and in my truck, I had it turned all the way up. I'm like, oh, hell no, right? No. And so I came this morning, I completely reloaded it raw, all audio settings off, just loaded it raw, and it turns out better. It's not as good as the rest of them, but it turns out better. So if you did start listening to that one and you shut it off because you couldn't hear Brad, please go back. Or if you
suffered through it.
Right. Sorry.
Sorry
about that.
Sorry to our guest.
Yeah,
sorry.
to our guest that's here today.
The only ones that suffered through it are the ones that love us the most.
Right. But, I'm always concerned about a new listener here and that, and just not, and, that's my biggest thing is I want somebody that comes in and starts listening to it for the first time. If they don't, if the audio is messed up or something, I don't want them shutting it off. And that's why I've been so particular and wanting just such a clean sound. And I just did too much. But like I said, I went back and fixed the Brad, Rob, and Larry show. So anyways, yeah, we got another guest in here with us today. I'm pretty excited with this one as well. I sound like Steve Harvey every time I do that. Got another good one for you today, folks. Here we go. So yeah, let's bring him in. Guest, you want to introduce yourself?
Right on. My name's Doug, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hello, Doug.
Hello, Doug.
Brothers?
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you in here. I'm always excited for everybody that gets in here. Brad, Mary, Chris. Because it's just, our family, our community of everybody coming together to do this thing that we all love doing. And that's just spreading this word of our disease, our alcoholism that we have. And the more people that we get out there, the more stories we get in, the more that everybody goes, that's me, right? That's what we're wanting to hit is that Absolutely. One person. When you get different stories, maybe somebody didn't relate to Brad. Maybe something didn't relate to Mary. Somebody didn't relate to Jason. But the more people we get in, the more different stories that we get in. And that's somebody somewhere is going to hear that. And I say it from the very beginning. One person, right? That's my goal. One person that reaches that one person that we saved.
And Doug has kind of the everyman story, really.
Yeah, he does. And so where I'm going to shut up, Rob.
Bullshit.
I tried.
Write that down.
I tried for a second, but I'm going to shut up. And Doug, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first off, those episodes have been absolutely amazing. Like, I dig them, man. It's everything you said, right? And the word relational comes to mind for me, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hearing those,
Oh, yeah.
Does that relate to me, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, yeah, they've been super fantastic. It just helps that I know everybody, but outside of that, if you weren't, it's just, they're just amazing.
That is that's interesting. So looking at it from the outside, Doug, if you didn't know anybody that was on that podcast, you would like sit there and listen to that?
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that wholeheartely. I mean, really, would I be looking at a alcoholism podcast and want to go listen?
Right.
Outside of that, I don't know.
Right.
But, a couple of those,
they're gripping.
Yeah,
no, they're gripping. Right. I find myself, like I said, even when I was listening to the Brad, not that I like listening to myself. It's just I got caught. Shut up, Doug. I got caught listening to that thing. Even once I heard how horrible it was, I got into the story. Even though I've heard it, I've heard Brad say it so many times. I mean, I listened. I recorded the whole podcast. I just find myself listening to it and wanting to know how's this going to end, right? And anyways, I told you guys not to let me go down a damn rabbit hole.
That wasn't a rabbit hole. That was not a rabbit trail.
Okay.
That was just talking. Okay. So now
it was the trail, just not the hole.
So we'll start.
Rob's referee.
And what I meant to do, start please with your sobriety date. And then lay it on us.
Well, lay it on you, right? First of all, sobriety date, September 1st, 2003. So by the grace of God, I get another day. I'm 21 tomorrow. Right. So yeah, pretty exciting. Yeah, I know, right? Only for today though, right?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even know that that's a whole surprise to me. We're recording the day prior to your birthday.
Yeah.
He's got a coin on the way, by the way.
Yeah. So 2003, September 1st. So, typically when I give testimony and share my story, I try not to do the drunkalog thing, right? I'm about solutions, right? And that's been over time, so to speak, but we'll get the short version up front, the younger years, but I'm a product, had an alcoholic father. Didn't see a lot of him when I was young. He was a workaholic on top my
Sounds
parents.
familiar.
Yeah, parents divorced at a young age, 9. Watched my mother put a suitcase on the front porch, and that was it. Right, pretty traumatic.
So you lived with your dad?
No.
Okay.
We were a family, and then she said adios, right, to him.
Okay, I gotcha.
Get out.
Yeah. Oh, put his suitcase on the front.
She put his on the porch,
Gotcha.
and I remember that.
Okay.
That's burned in the memory.
Now, did you at that? I know there's another question, but when she did that, you and I have talked. Did you have any resentment towards her about that?
Not until you just brought it up. No.
Thanks, Rob.
No, he knows the
right.
No, not. Yes. Yeah. But I don't think we put that down.
Yeah, we did.
That's a good call. I don't know about that piece.
Oh, okay.
But maybe. So anyway, yeah. So shortly after that, mom meets another individual, right, and starts a relationship, and lo and behold, he's an alcoholic, raging alcoholic, So we lived through. Have an older sister as well. 5 years old.
How old were you when this transition took place?
I was 9, I think.
Okay.
Right about 9. And so she met this guy. He was a raging alcoholic, and this will come full circle later. So we lived through all that stuff that comes with it. If you're an alcoholic,
so she went from one to another. How long were they separated from your dad before she started dating the new one?
Man, I was young. It wasn't that long.
Gotcha.
There was a little bit of time maybe, but not a whole lot.
Did your mom drink much?
No, that's interesting. No.
Wow.
So we raised religious, both sides, dads and mom's parents, very, very religious. So we had a lot of, that exposure at a young age. However, we went to church when I was young. I went to a Baptist school. when I was young.
Okay.
And then when we couldn't afford it, divorce, right? Like that, I went to public school. So that was a whole nother fun ordeal, right? Kind of. But anyway, so yeah, so she
Can I ask one more question on that?
This cat, yeah.
Was because now I'm interested in your mom. Sorry.
That's all right.
Was your mom's dad an alcoholic?
No.
Was your grandpa?
No.
Just interesting. Nope. I don't know why
We're
find
talking,
it interesting.
Dust Bowl people from Oklahoma who worked hard and church and work and family. And the other ones were dairy farmers, cattle farmers, the other side. And still to this day, most of both sides are, right? Okay. So I had, religion and all that fun stuff, but what was going on in the home compared to what you would hear in church was not there, right? And so we as a family moved away from going to church, and we didn't do that anymore. And hence, I lost my path in that. So kind of go that direction. But I think about 11 or so, 12, we moved to the Central Valley from Northern California down to here. Stepdad took a job. Mom, we moved. I'm now don't live where my dad lives, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, what the how am I going to see my dad, right? So that started, see dad on spring break, Christmas, and a little bit of summer, even though he worked, right? So I did that. I would visit dad and stuff like that. He still worked. I would go to work with my dad, and just so you know, he's a logger. Was a logger, right? Okay. Mechanic, all of the above. So when dad's off work, he would go to the bar and bring son with. Right? Okay. So that was our time. Father-son time was going to the bar. Yeah, I played a lot of Pac-Man, ate a lot of Reese's peanut butter cups and M&Ms, and sat in the truck,
beer nuts, sat
out in the car waiting. Go in there. Hey, are we gonna go? Right, like those types of things. Yeah. But that's after being up at 2 a.m. to go to work. Right. So yeah, I did a lot of cool stuff up in the mountains and saw a lot of stuff, but I also spent a lot of time at the bar as a little kid. Right. Wow. So that was the story for quite a while, right? So I will tell you, my first drunk, I was 6. Wow. Was a ring bearer at my cousin's wedding, and it was cute for the little kid to pour beer, right, for the adults who were the keg pumping away, and hey, one for you, one for me, and that was my first one. And,
wow,
as a young age, but whatever that was, and centered in the mind, right? I had it. Like it was even at a young age. I always felt that I didn't belong. Like I was different.
Such a common,
right?
Yeah,
and
very common.
And that was even at a young. That was the solution, right? And so as we grew up, and just while my mom was dating this other guy, right? So she would stay at his house. Well, we had a house by ourselves. Mind you, my sister's 5 years older, freshman in high school, right? So hey, she's got a house. So she was throwing parties at our house, right? I was playing quarters, drinking cold duck, right? At 9, 10 years old.
Cold duck. I haven't heard that one in a while. Yeah. I haven't heard that in a while.
Hey, that's better than Fireball. Much better.
Yeah, much better. So I was that little kid, and I'd get drunk and they'd throw me in bed, right? And so
they'd probably get you drunk early to get rid of you.
Yes, most likely, right? So a lot of memories around that kind of stuff, right? And
but did she have hot girlfriends?
Yeah. And did we all move to the Central Valley, right? Yeah. And you always kind of find this people that are alike, so to speak, right? And we were middle class and never wanted for nothing. They made okay money, it was all good, but we lived alcoholic family. Cops came to our house, right? Wow. There was the whole house gets tore up and blah blah blah, and and you're embarrassed, and your friends and all that fun stuff, and you never know what's going to happen, type of activity. But so, moved through and moved out to where we're at now, and have spent my whole life, in that area. And but anyway, I drank young. My friends had brothers and sisters who could get alcohol, and we would drink and do other things, and just that was just kind of what we did. Normal. Not all the time,
normal,
but but. If it was, do you want some of that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was never no. It was
no hesitation. No hesitation.
So, we went through life, and my mom stayed through this, right? Through my whole adolescence. At 18, my sister said, adios. She walked out the door. with her and went to live with her boyfriend, right? And I was left alone with guy and mom, right? And like, well, you can't leave me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So anyway, navigated all that stuff, as a kid. And
how old were you when your sister left?
13.
Okay, so it was 5 years.
Mm-hmm. So I was,
which is the age I met Doug. He was 13.
Yeah, I was in 7th grade going into 8th, right? And so we had lived in one town and went to another, and he got worse, just so you know. So all that same stuff happened. We had cops come to the house, right, and so on and so forth. But we had went to he got a job over on the coast, and so I'm in a town going to junior high, just again move towns, meet new people. We're moving again, freshman year. Son of a biscuit, right? All the way over there, new kid, new school, new thing, right? Same kids, you kind of start.
Right.
I gravitated towards those that kind of had the same deal, right? And we actually lived in a motorhome for a year. It was horrible. Come home on the weekends. And
I don't want my wife to hear that because I've been trying to convince her that we need to do that.
Not a little 22-foot motorhome with 3 of us, right? And it was on the river, just like kind of what you see nowadays.
On a van,
yeah,
in a van,
by the river.
down by the river.
Who are those folks, And so and said, stepdad drank all the time, and I remember. So here's a story. My mom says she had to go to away for training, and she's leaving me with this guy. And I know what's happening. I already know, just as I would do. Mama's away.
Right.
He's going to, hey, gets off work. I'm home from school. You want to go in? So we'd go to town, we're in the mountains. It's a long curvy road. It's a bit, right? We'll go down and have dinner. We love to eat there. That's great.
Right.
Clam chowder and all this, but it's also connected to the bar.
Yeah.
Right. So I know what's happening. Well, it's Friday night. Well, some of my friends are probably going to be in town, right? So sure enough, we go down. We're eating dinner. Everything's cool. He has a couple cocktails, and I'm like, he goes, well, I'm going to go in and go next door for a little bit.
Of course you are.
Here we go. Right. Okay. So I go outside, and sure enough, there's some kids from school, and so we get a good idea to, shoulder tap. And so we get some folks to buy some beer. And so we go in the alley and
hold on a second, because there's some younger people in the audience that may not understand what the shoulder tap is.
Yeah.
Explain that real fast.
Well, whoever was the bravest, go find some suspecting person, say, hey, would you mind buying us some beer? Right. And we'll buy you some, whatever it took. Right. We didn't care.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so that happened. Right. We go in the alley, we drink. And I will tell you, I remember them putting this case of beer down, and I remember immediately grabbing a 6-pack, tearing one off, and throwing 5 underneath the staircase.
You did?
Yeah, because those are going to be mine.
Oh, that is 100% alcohol.
Right?
Tendency from the get-go. Oh, my.
So I don't know. I don't know that I drank all 6 of those, but I believe I probably came close, right? And we're in the alley, so then we go out front. We'd been back there a little bit. And mind you, I'm 14, I think. And we're out front. I got a buzz on. My stepfather comes out and says, all right, let's go. And you're driving.
Oh.
So, what? So what do you do? Do I say, no, I'm drunk?
Right.
Give me the keys.
All right, here we go. Yeah, hop in that car, and I drive us out on Highway 1 and take the exit. And we go up the canyon. There's a car wreck. There's cops. I'm like, crap. Here we go. Slow. And I've been driving my whole life.
Right.
Like you, at a young age on a farm and tractors and all that stuff. So it's a stick shift, 5-speed. I have no problem. We were raised on that stuff, right?
Yep.
So anyway, drove us home. So weird, right? Or just craziness.
Looking back, yeah.
Yeah, crazy, and anyway, moved back to hometown, right? Sophomore year.
Hey, can I ask a quick question on that? Just before we go too far, your real dad and this guy, did they ever communicate? Was just
I don't know. I'm sure that they had seen each other at some point, maybe drank in the same bar together. A town that we were in wasn't all that big, right? This guy was in corrections and pretty kind of high up. So, but he was a drunk, so I know they didn't go necessarily frequent the same bars, but probably. And I don't know.
The only reason why I was asked that is if your dad knew that this guy was doing all that with his son in the house and any of that. No.
Oh, I doubt that.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I doubt that. I would highly doubt that. Yeah.
Okay.
But so we come back high school times, right? Move back, meet some folks, and I what I thought was normal high school life, right? My good friend, I think by the time we were either the end of our sophomore year, he could actually purchase beer.
I had one of those.
Big and hairy and strong, right?
Yeah.
And I think we were all we went to all the parties, we did our own thing, right? But when I look back, like we drank every weekend.
And
right? Oh, yeah. We ripped and rolled, and we always I don't know, we were just alike, so to speak, right? And that's just what we did, and we did that well. We had fun, we worked hard, good grades. It didn't hurt us, didn't hinder us at that time, right? For me, it didn't. Athletics, still really good at all that stuff, and
Doug was super fast. And to give our audience a little context, Larry's senior year would be Doug's sophomore year, would have been my freshman year. So we all went to school together.
I was going to ask, what year did you come into Oakdale? Shit.
Well, we went to junior high together, and then he moved away, and then he came back his sophomore year.
85, maybe?
Okay, well, not the year. I was just curious when you came from the coast over into Oakdale area.
Back the second time, the first time. It'll be my sophomore year.
Okay,
so
all right.
86, maybe?
Yep.
No,
87.
89.
My sophomore year.
No. Yes, it was, because 87, 88 is my freshman.
Yeah. So anyway.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Who asked that question?
You did, you dipshit.
I don't know why I went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. So, I had, just so you know, I had really great support on both sides of the family. I spent every summer at grandparents' house, farm, right? Just super stellar and just beautiful people. And looking backwards, those folks saved me, right? I spent a lot of time with them, loved it dearly. That was my normal
stability.
Yeah. But going to church, right? Going to Bible camp in the summertime, right? Just feeling ugly in my skin and just didn't relate.
Right.
My cousins that were just staunch Christians, I felt outcast and different, right? Because I was astray.
Right.
Looking
feral.
back, look at all, feral. Looking back at all that stuff, right? And so high school was high school. I had a lot of fun, did all that stuff, and graduation came, and most of everybody went off to school. So graduation came, all cool. A lot of my friends went away to school and stuff, and I was standing there with my thumb in my hiney, like I didn't know. I was so ill prepared. Yeah. And I had no car even. I didn't have a car in high school. I didn't have a car after I graduated. And I was like, well, shoot, I better do something, get a job. So I did that, right? Got a job, ended up getting a car, then ended up at college right after that, and actually back in athletics and very successful. All that time though, a lot of drinking.
Yep.
So, go to school, right? Again, I'm there for athletics, but there happens to be some folks in that team, right, that I gravitate towards that are just like me.
Right. And what was your sport?
Track and field.
Track and field.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had fun, right? And if someone said, let's go drink, I would do that every time we were going to class. Every time, not even blink an eye, right? I would take our per diem money that we got for lunch, right? We would get money to eat when we're going away to meets and stuff, and we'd put our money together, and we'd go. One guy could buy, he would go, and we'd go in the alley and drink. I mean, so it's getting kind of a little out of control, right? I mean, we got in trouble and had a big to do and all that, but we were the top people on the team, so they weren't going to do nothing, right? And they didn't. They just
look the other way.
Yeah, don't do that, right? And so in my story, knowing this now, but the pivotal part comes, I had 2 years, did really well, was MVP of the league. I mean, it was I didn't think I could do that, and it happened, right? It was awesome, and college scholarships are coming in, right? And I'm thinking, man, but I had no financial support, right? My mom and them, they didn't even talk about going to college or whatever, right? And I was like, how am I going to do this, right? And they made money. I'm not going to get financial aid, all these
middle of the road
dumb stuff, right? That it was an excuse, really was, right? So
Fear.
Yeah, it was absolutely 100%. Yep. So at 20 years old, my dad dies. Right. And he, obviously, but he never took care of himself, and he was an alcoholic, and he had some other things that had happened to him. And he'd been in and out of the hospital many a times. And my stepmom thought, oh, this is just another time he's going to go in the hospital. So she never called me. And then the call that I did get, bright as day, because I know I'm going to work in the morning. I'm up at 5 a.m. Phone rings. And my mom's up. She was always up. I was still living at home. And I looked at my mom. I said, don't answer that phone.
Ooh.
My mom answers it. I can tell. I'm going to get choked up, but I can tell. It is. I just knew, right? And so they tell me. And I'm just rocked, rocked from my core, right? I mean, he was not a good father, but he was my dad.
Your dad.
Yeah. There's, you don't get to choose your parents.
No.
So you don't get that as an excuse. You do not have a choice in that. So what you do have a choice of is what you do.
Right.
100%.
How you react.
Yeah, that kind of sent me off the rails. I mean, I was pretty distraught. It was August. As a matter of fact, what's today?
August 31st.
Today's the day he died.
Day before your sobriety ended up being your birthday.
He died when at 20. So that's been 32 years ago today. Ooh, I didn't even see. Look at that. Wow.
Is that odd or?
It's got to be God, my friend.
Be God.
We got two things.
Blowing you away right now.
The day your dad passes away is the day we're recording. The day after we record is your actual sobriety birthday.
Yeah.
And if I do the math, they're 31 and 20. They're 22 and 31 days apart, or 31 years.
You can't do math.
No, I'm horrible. I was hoping you guys wouldn't fucking notice.
It was 32 years.
So your sobriety is
He'll have 21
12 years. Yeah. So 10 years past your dad's.
Oh, that's what you're getting.
Yeah. I was trying to get to that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Shut up, fucker.
I was 31.
Listen, I was told I'm okay to say fuck, so fuck you.
We're cutting those out. So I was 31 when I got sober.
Okay.
31. And so anyway, that just blew me away that today I'm like, holy crap. But that was a pivotal point. Like,
oh yeah,
I dropped out of school. I called my girlfriend, said, hey, go cancel all my classes. I'm not coming back. Right. I was heading north. Right. And I said, Mom, we're leaving in the morning. You're driving me. And so my mom actually drove me all the way up there. Right. Stay with my stepmom. Then my mom came back. I stayed and went through some stuff with my stepmom and getting ready to prepare for a funeral. And then I don't know how long I was gone. I think it was a couple weeks probably.
Okay.
Most likely. And came home, and then I just had to go to work because I dropped out of school and I never went back. Right. All those scholarships were gone, because I still had I had to finish that semester because I didn't start right after high school. I started spring, and I pissed that away. That was a bad one. Right. And so went, I just said, well, I guess I got to go to work. And that's what I did. Mm-hmm. So, I just started and went kind of one to another kind of thing. But I drank quite a bit. Like it was not a daily routine every weekend for sure. Fridays and Saturdays live for those bad boys, and sometimes Sundays. Right. And I still had friends in college, so I got to go to all their parties and hang out with some of the folks that were still local and fun stuff like that. Right. Yep. Sheesh. After that, I got my dream job. I went to work for Coors.
Okay.
I went to work for them. So I got a commercial license. It's important for the story to say that, but I had a commercial driver's license. Went to work for Coors and was drunk for 30 days straight. Went there because we could drink when we got in. I was going to
say, you guys had a bar in there from what because I almost went to work there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a dream job, right? I am working for that. And I drank
sponsored by the Silver Bullet.
Get off work at 2:30, 3 o'clock, roll in the barn there and pour one out of the kegerator, and then leave at 9 o'clock at night, go home, get up, come back and do that.
How did they keep drivers? Every time I heard that,
none of us had a drunk driver.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I mean,
do you think they still have one in there? In this day and age,
that would be crazy if they did.
Yeah, right?
I wonder.
I've always wondered
liability nowadays, right? But anyway, so I one thing I always had was that work ethic. There's no doubt about it. My grandfather showed me that, and You know what it's like.
Oh yeah, no, never missed a day.
I was both
right.
Workaholic, alcoholic, right? Those tendencies, and managed to work really hard and just keep moving and getting another better job and another better job, and so was able to do all right, and had a relationship that turned into a marriage, right? We were together quite a bit. I think 10 years total, just shy of 10. Like 4.5 dating and then another 5 maybe married, before, she was tired of me. Right. And typical, I work hard, I provide what's wrong, but what a mess I was, right? I couldn't wait to get off work and go to the bar.
We
right?
deserve what we do to ourselves.
Yeah. If I think back to that insanity, right. Just craziness. And so, wasn't married long, and it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And I was the worst. I was the person causing all that. Right. And I rode my train or drove that bus until the wheels fell off. And don't you know, this is how it should be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
True stories.
Yeah. And she's finally smartened up and was like, I'm not digging this kind of thing. And she kind of started to live her life a little bit. Right. And, I'm like, no, that's not okay. Had a son, my boy was born, and greatest thing that ever did happen to me. He was born. And so even with that, right. Still carried on, and then I made a decision. I'm going to just move out, did that. And,
so opposite of what Brad did.
Yeah. I was like, I'll show her, I'll just go do this. Right. And thought that might get her attention.
How'd that work out?
Yeah. I'll show you.
Yeah, well, that was
my beer.
That was the start of exactly. That was the start of the real decline, right? Like, okay,
think I'm a drunk now? Watch this.
I tried to manage my P's and Q's because I had my son every day, and would it was kind of like an every other weekend thing. We talked to each other, but it was going that direction, right? And so, needless to say, sometime after that, I had a weekend that, there was just no more giggles left. There was zero fun left in drinking. Zero. It was, I was hanging out with folks I shouldn't be. I was doing things I shouldn't be doing. Just miserable. And it was really inside my head. I knew I was rotten inside, and I was not doing, by golly, what I should be doing, and it was this holiday weekend, right? I did not have my son.
Why is everything wrapping around today like this, Doug?
Just was, right? And I went on, I had fun that weekend, right? And didn't show up to work, right? And they called, like, my wife, like, hey, your husband's not here. We haven't heard from him. Your emergency contact. Well, then she's, my phone's blowing up. I ain't in no mood to answer anything, right?
Man.
And anyway, that was my pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And God came to me that day. No doubt. I had the experience.
Say it, because that's a great story, please.
I was there, and the white light happened, and it was like, you're done. This is it. You're done.
I know it very well.
You are done. And I broke down. I cried like a baby. And then we're going to go forward and then backwards, if you don't mind. But I went to the phone book, and I looked up Alcoholics Anonymous, and I called the hotline.
Wow.
Yeah. Why did I do that?
You were done.
So.
And you know the guy that answered the phone. We all do.
His name's right here, because this is the book he gave me 21 years ago. My first meeting right there, September 1st, 2003. Phil answered, was working the hotline.
He's still on that hotline.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And every now and again, I'll remind him, hey, man, you're the guy that, and so funny story there, but so the reason I said, why did I call AA? Right. So we'll go backwards to that guy that my mom was married to that made my life miserable. Right. Mm-hmm. They separated when I was 18. My mom and I, right before graduation, ended up getting our own place right in town. She's had enough of him. Right. I'm like, woohoo. Right. We're free, and I'm having a good time. Right. And then they get back together, and I remember coming home, and he's in the house, and I'm like, what in the is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's time. We might have to go
get
it. Right. And I'm just looking at my mom like, are you dumb? Like, what is going on? We need to talk, kind of thing. So I didn't want to hear none of that crap. But they got back together. He ends up moving in with us there. I'm like, and then we all moved together. We stayed. And so why I'm saying this is what I didn't know is he got sober.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. In the meetings we go to today in Oakdale, he started that meeting.
Really? I did not know that.
With Chuck P.
Really? I did not know that.
So, and I didn't either, right? And I didn't really care at the time because I was too involved in myself, right? And I had all those resentments and stuff that will be dealt with later, right? But drove me
to be continued.
Yeah, to be continued. And he wrote me. He tried to make an amends to me and wrote a card, and I opened it up. I have it somewhere. I haven't found it yet. It'll come up somewhere, right?
Does it mean more to you now, though?
Yeah, because I know it's there.
Right.
I still have yet read it. I don't think I've read it yet.
Wow.
To this day, right? Even when I went through my steps the first time, and we'll get to that at some point. But he got sober, and he died with 5 years of sobriety.
Okay.
And that guy, I see some shit, right? And that guy put us all through it, right? And pretty heavy stuff. Nothing physical, a lot of mostly verbal and stuff like that. Yeah.
Those are worse sometimes.
Well, I remember this is an example, right? And this, people go through this. So I'm on one side of the door and my mom and him are having a good fight. Right. And I'm on the inside of my bedroom and I'm getting out of bed. I'm like, it's getting to like, he's talking about me kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, this is going to be, we might end up having a fight here. So I got my wooden softball bat in the room and I'm on the other side of the door. No, I got it. I'm like, cause he's threatening to come in my room. My mom, literally, I know on the outside, my mom is between him and my door. Right. And they're having a good one. And I'm like, come through that door, mother sucker. It is going to be ugly. Right. And, I thought he was going to get physical with my mom. I opened the door. Right. And then he saw me and we kind of had some words. Right. He said some bad stuff and do it. Yeah. Right. Do it.
And you were young still then.
Yeah. Real young. Well, not really young. Teenager, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so those are kind of things, right? So needless to say, I didn't want to hear anything he had to say. Right. He was trying to make amends.
Close to amends.
And he wrote a letter.
Right.
And I had refused to read it, but I've got it somewhere. But I'll deal with that at some point in time.
Okay.
So marriage comes to a point where we got to go our separate ways, right? And I had went to a counselor and had already been to AA meeting and so went to an outside counselor and did that kind of stuff and she said go to those AA meetings, so I did, went to meetings and just still lost, not knowing what's going on. So anyway,
were you not comfortable the first time? In fact, this question's coming up because of a previous conversation. When you walked in there, you didn't feel comfortable?
No, the first meeting I went to was not where we go now, but in Modesto, right? And next to a liquor store. I judged everybody on the outside. Right. Like, there's no way these people are not like me. I'm watching everybody. I'm in the
paper
parking
baggers,
lot, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And I sat there nervous as heck, and I'm just sitting there saying, you got to go in. Mm-hmm. Drag my lazy butt over there, right? And I stood at the door. Let everybody go in. I'm like, ugh. I'll cross that threshold, Larry. And I was home.
See, that's what I wanted to hear.
I was home. I literally just went, I'm home.
That's the same sound my body used to make when I took that first drink. When I get home,
yeah, baby.
My body would make that.
Yep. Know it well.
And those folks over there at that time, it was hardcore. That was a men's meeting at that time, and they were sit down, shut up kind of thing, and it was.
But they made you feel home.
Oh yeah,
no matter how hard they were.
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot that day.
And that's what I was trying to get to, only because we had the discussion of people being scared to walk into their meetings for the first time. And that's why I wanted to hear your perception of it.
And I would say, that's a fear trying to prevent you from getting what you need.
Absolutely, it's a fear, right?
And I'll tell you, another part of that is, why wouldn't you? You already know you're living the worst part. Yeah. Why wouldn't you try something? Just try it.
You're already there.
You're already there.
You're at the door.
Worst case, you walk out and go get a drink next door at the liquor store.
And that's what's going to, what's going to happen when that goes.
We will fully refund your misery.
Right.
Give this a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've used that like twice since you've said
nobody gets to AA on a winning streak. None of us do.
No.
We're not kicking life in the ass and then get to AA, walk into AA. We got it going on.
I had a good friend. He was actually my boss at the time, and I called him, and he met me at night. It was work, right? He met me on the corner. I said, I had this book in my hand, because after the meeting, Phil walked up to me. How'd he pick me out of all those people, Rob?
They just know, buddy.
How did I look stupid or something? I don't know.
Dude,
Did I have a new guy sign?
Yeah, newbies stand out, but
He walked over and
all
said,
have that same look on their face, just scared out of their minds.
There's
Yeah.
50 people there that night.
Right.
And he walks over to me and says, hey.
You're
like,
Doug.
What? Here's your book. What?
Uh-huh.
So,
Good gift.
yeah, absolutely. And but I will tell you that, going back to the other meetings I went to after that, I felt a little uncomfortable, weird, right? At the beginning, I'm going to know somebody in here. I did. I walked in, 2 guys that I went to school with, right? Hey, awkward kind of, but they're there for the same reason I am.
Absolutely.
But it still took me a bit.
That was when
We'll talk about that as well.
When we were getting ready to go to, when he invited me to go to Brad's, I was like, Oakdale, am I going to know anybody? He goes, you're going to know one. And I'm like, you going to tell me who? He's like, nope. And I go, okay.
Yeah.
And then when I walked in, but Rob basically said, they're there the same reason you're coming. And I'm like, okay.
And
Yeah.
isn't that a relief? Like, no one told me that when
Right.
I walked in the other one, right?
Right. Once I knew when he told
Even
me
though
that.
it should be fucking
right.
obvious.
Right.
Just an AA meeting,
Right.
you walk in, hey, you son of a bitch, you got here before I did.
Right.
Just a little
So
bit
stupid.
Either they drank more or they,
It doesn't
got
matter.
a little bit
No.
smarter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the meeting that my stepdad had helped start, right? And I didn't know this for a bit until I got educated by Chuck, right? And I was like, that hit me. That got me.
Mm-hmm.
You,
Now I want to know what's in that letter.
but you tell me, odd or God.
It's God. It's always
I'm
God.
getting and listen, I hated that man for a lot of years.
Uh-huh.
Here I am in the meeting that he helped start.
He pulled a chair out for you.
Amen.
Yes, he did.
For sure, right?
Yeah.
For sure. So that started my journey, right? Meanwhile, I'm going through a divorce, start that stuff, right? And all that craziness that goes with it, right? We're both, our feelings and going through all that stuff, and young son that's just freaking amazing, right? And now, mind you, my dad, mom got divorced when I was young. I got divorced when I was young. So here's where I was becoming him.
And how many times did you swear, I'll never be that? I'll never be like
never
him.
do that. I'll never take my son into a bar. I will never leave my son at home with some.
I can't tell you how many men I've sponsored who said that very thing.
And so that was heavy, and I was like, my God, I am becoming, and I'm not going to put my son through that. I will not put my son through that. And I didn't. Right. And so that was that was after the awakening, right? I had that realization, like, oh my gosh, I'm following the exact same steps. Right. So yeah, got sober. Right. And
Rob, your dad passed away when you were young, so you never
I was
had.
28 years old.
Oh, you were 28 years old.
He died of an aneurysm when we were working together.
Was he a heavy drinker?
Not a drinker at all.
Okay, so you didn't never.
He might have a beer every now and again, but we didn't have beer in the house. Nothing. They weren't.
Okay.
He was not a drinker.
Anyways, sorry.
yeah, no, that
Yeah.
strikes everybody, right?
Right.
No matter where you're at.
My dad was.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad took me to the bars.
Yeah,
We sat outside, me and my sister. We'd go in, right down here. We used to, when it was the store next door.
Yeah,
they
for
had
sure.
the bar one side and the grocery store on the other side. And we'd walk in the one side to get what we wanted, and we'd have to go back out in the truck. I got a funny story about that.
I'll give you my funny story. Same thing, Larry. So, little town my dad lived in, right? Little corner store out there in the country. One side's the bar, the other side's the country store. They got everything. Go down there. He goes in to drink. And that one, they wouldn't let kids in. So I'm sitting in the truck listening to the radio. Well, how much money you need, right? I can only eat so many M&Ms and drink so many sodas, right? And I think I'm 12 or 13 at this, maybe 14. I don't know. I'm getting there, right? It's a 76 Ford F-250 4-speed, right? His work truck. I'm sitting there for a while. I'm like, I'm done with this shit. I left, fired that sucker up and drove home, pulled in the driveway, walk in the house, right? And it's just me and my stepmom's cooking dinner. And she's like looking down the hall, like, where's your dad? And I'm like, that's when I realized this is going to get ugly. Right. This is going to get ugly. And I said, he's still at the bar. Yeah. It was on like Donkey Kong. She was livid.
So you drove home.
She called. Yeah. I left him there.
So she livid at you or him?
Him. Oh no, she was not. She was so mad at him.
Yeah.
She was so mad at him. And I'm thinking, oh, my dad's going to.
He's going to kick your ass.
Never said a word. Never said a word, right? And so anyway, I went in the rooms, was going through a divorce. My employer had to know. I told my employer. They offered me, you want to go to rehab? What do you want to do, right? And I said, I'm going to give this. I'm already a counselor. I'm going to give this program a try because I'm like, there ain't going to no rehab. Come on, that's for weak people, right? I don't know nothing. Right? So I'm going to give this a try. That don't work. Yeah. Right. So I did that. And,
it worked.
I went 30 days, and was sitting in the meeting, and you've heard me say this before, right? And I sat there, my head cleared, feeling good, going there, I still didn't understand because I wasn't reading the book. I hadn't had a sponsor. I wasn't doing it. I was just going. I was just there. And that was my safe place.
Mm-hmm.
After work, drop son off, meeting every day. That was my safe spot. So I was doing whatever it took at that time to stay sober.
White knuckling it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And so I'm sitting there and I look, I'm just not hearing it. I'm not enjoying it. It's about 5 minutes to 8 and I'm just looking at the clock. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go down the street and get drunk. Right. Or I'm going to do what they suggest. And I'm just sitting there thinking, which one? It's a 50-50 chance, right? It's a 50-50. 50-50. Let's flip it, right?
So the bar or the directory? It's in our book.
The bar, it's
in our book. Mm-hmm.
That's what I was doing, sitting there. And thank goodness I'd been to 30 days of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And said, you know what? I know what's going to happen
right.
if I go left. Here's the way I say it. If I go left to the bar, I know what's going to happen.
Right.
If I go right and ask somebody to be my sponsor and why don't you give this a shot? Because I can always go left.
Right. It's always there.
That was my thought. And so I did. And there was and I'm like, well, I'd already picked a guy. I just didn't know it. And subconsciously, I had already had that paid out. And I picked a guy that, probably, so he's a big biker dude. I figured that guy won't take any of my crap. Right. Like, and I went outside and my head down, oh man, and he's getting ready to hop on that motorcycle. And I'm like, he's going to leave. He's going to, hey, excuse me. And so I asked him, right. And you guys know who my first sponsor was, Bill. And at that time he was a pretty good sized fella, long beard, he was the Harley guy. And I asked him to be my sponsor. He said, yeah, he gave me his number, said, call me. So I did. Right?
Did he give you the 4 rules?
No, he doesn't have those 4 rules. So, what's dynamic is, for me, God placed the right people at the right time in my life.
Yep. Oh yeah.
All of my life.
Yep.
I can look back and go, by the grace of God, on a multitude of times. We all can, right?
Right.
This is one of them. So it's the right guy at the right time. So I actually was living with my brother-in-law at the time. He let me live with him, even though I'm divorcing his sister. Like he's, and so I put him in an awkward situation, but he was like, we'll get, and so we did that for a while. And it was like almost a year I was living with him, and he's starting a relationship and with somebody and she's got a couple kids. And I'm like, it's time for me to go.
Right.
Now what? What do I do now? And so, my sponsor's like, dude, brand new place right next to me. I know the landlord. Calls me the next day. Go to this address. Give him the deposit. It's yours. And I was like, this is so awesome. I got my own place. It's a duplex, I owned a home, all that stuff. But I got a duplex now. It's 2-bedroom. My son gets a room. I got it. It was absolutely perfect. And literally, our doors looked at each other. Bill and I. And so Bill's like my dad, dude. Like
kind of like Jay is for me. Now.
Right.
He taught me how to. That guy.
Yes.
I did not know how to do life. Like I didn't know how to be a man. I didn't know how to be a father. I didn't know how to be a boyfriend and a husband. I didn't know any of that stuff. And I'm not saying he literally went through all that with me, but I watched him. Yeah. And he coached me along the way. Mm-hmm. And it was wonderful. Like I think 6 years I lived next to him. And we ate dinner together every other night and almost every night for a while. And he had a girlfriend. He didn't have a girlfriend. He had a live-in. He didn't have a live-in. Right. And so, but I watched him walk through some serious stuff. Right. His girlfriend died.
But he also AA'd you.
Yeah.
We are not affiliated with AA.
No.
However, but he took you, he got you involved in the program. He got you involved.
Yeah. That's a great point, because he drugged me to events. He drugged me to sober events, and he introduced me to people. Right. And he
volunteered you to share that, the night's ferry, for a year and a half?
Well, the commitment was 6 months, right? And I did it for almost 2 years because I loved it.
It was one of the life changers.
But that just goes because I know where you're going to go eventually. But that's how good, because there's good and bad everything. Good sponsorship, good leadership is life saving, life changing. And Bill did that for you at a time when you needed it.
Yeah, it kept me busy, right? Accountable,
right? Absolutely,
Rob. Got me, that foundation that first year, and without him, like I said, different way of doing the steps. We went through it, kind of, we did. Not like we'd done before, but it was the first go around, right? But it cleared enough out to get going, and things started ripping after that. One day at a time, right? And still did meetings, did all that stuff, working. Divorce is fine. All son, I can see I'm with my son all the time. Every other weekend kind of thing, and during the week, and coaching baseball, coaching soccer, doing all that stuff,
doing
right?
The dad
Being
stuff.
a dad, yeah. Knowing that it's just beautiful. I got nothing. I can look back on everything and just be like, it's all good, right?
Yeah,
and do that, So, I just did that. Went to meetings, did all that stuff for about 6 years, and had a couple girlfriends in between there, and just really wasn't.
Were they AA?
No.
Wise decision.
Didn't do
Wise,
that, right? Yeah. Funny enough, is I had this list. Like, if I ever get married again, right? This is what it's gonna be. This is the only way I'm going to do this again. Wrote this list. You're going to have this job.
Was that list out of your head, or was that a list somebody gave you?
No, it was out of my. This is my list that And what do you think happened on that list? None of it.
Yeah. If you want to make God laugh, just tell him your plans.
That's why I asked you that, right?
Yeah.
None of it. I will tell you this. He did do that. I had a person come into my life that had that criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work. It just
your plan didn't work.
It did.
No.
And that's why I wanted to say that. I had that. Right. It was answered. Okay. Here you go. Yeah. It didn't work, right? It wasn't what I thought it was supposed to be, right? And so I just kind of continued on and had a great, so needless to say, I got married again, had a great, an encounter with a friend that hadn't seen in 18 years, right? And it was just, I knew it was it. I was done. I was toast, right? It had known each other for a long period of time. And she had her issues, going through some stuff, had a young daughter. We dated for a bit, moved all the way out from Montana to here, and then we cohabitated, and then I'm like, this is it. We're doing this.
Right.
And so, we've been married, and we went through a lot. It ain't easy merging families. And
no, I wouldn't know, but I've seen it.
It's not fun. Right. And she's got a wonderful family, very supportive, love me dearly. I love them. And we my son went away and still got a kid, right? And it's getting ready to go away. But I want to say, though, because life got good at 6 years, right? And then I got a relationship and everything was great, working. Oh, and then I bought a house. So I finally was able to get a home before I met her and had my own little pad. My son and I, check out our bachelor pad. Dude, we got a house now, right?
How old was he then?
House.
So he had to be 11 then.
Yeah.
See, I did my math.
Right around there. So now we got a whole house, right? Just us. And then shortly after that,
you screwed it all up.
It was over.
Bringing a woman in.
And another kid, he's looking at me like, what the?
Damn it, Dad.
And so, but life got good, and I didn't do a lot of meetings. Like I went away. Like and Rob's right. I did sponsorship, right? Or not sponsor. I did my commitments, right? I poured coffees. I did all that stuff and went to meetings and did that was a big part of my life. But also doing life. And trying to learn how to live life on life's terms at that point. And
how long did you step away for, roughly?
Well, this is funny is like 2 meetings a year.
Right.
So
that's stepping away. A couple years.
That's stepping away.
Yeah, a couple years.
Would you go to birthday meetings? Your birthday meetings?
No. I didn't check in with Bill. Didn't check in with Bill as much.
His life was good. I mean, it wasn't.
Well, we talk about that. Yeah, we talk about that.
Every once in a while, hey man, how you doing? Oh, good. I'm doing great.
Life's getting busy.
And I had nothing to complain. Work was great. Look, I was thriving at work. I had promotions and I was, had all this, I just, it was good. Right.
Right.
Then it was in my brain. Right.
For 5 years.
I tried to, a friend of mine wanted to get sober and I tried with him sponsorship. Right. And it didn't take. And, I get a phone call and this is right at 10 years. So, between 6 and 10, it was very few and far between. I was left unattended for a while. Yeah. I love that saying because that's true. Right. So my mind, that disease is back there just ripping.
Oh yeah.
Ripping. Now I didn't want to drink.
Doing push-ups.
But I didn't want to, I had that wasn't the thought, but I was literally going crazy in between my ears. Right. And so.
Did you become a dry drunk or just white knuckle drunk?
No,
that's a big difference.
Well, white knuckle means you're fighting the drink. He wasn't fighting the drink. Yeah. He was just fighting.
So there was no obsession there.
No.
But I think it would be more of like of my shortcomings and stuff, right? That stuff starts to become more visible.
Right.
And, it was. I was
spiritually unfit.
That's what
I was.
Right.
That.
Good sponsorship.
Yeah, and then because that one day at the dinner table when my son says, "Dad, why don't we go to church?" We looked at him because my son was more of and I never push religion on my kids, right? And my son was more of a scientific. He's smart as a whip, right? And he's more of a, come on, man, evolution and all that. Come on, Dad. And then one day he just looks at us and says that, and I about fell out of my chair. Guess where we're going, right?
No,
and my wife, she had been asking for some time because you want to do that, and I was the one kind of holding it back. Well, we better go,
right?
So that started the spiritual part of that. So my point was, I get a phone call, and
this is about 10 years sober now.
Right at 10, and I'm crazy and don't know it. For the most part, I get a phone call from my buddy, right? That
you thought would never get sober.
Never. He calls and makes an amends to me on the phone. I'm like, and says, "Hey, I got 8 months sober." And I was like, about fell over.
Right.
I'm like, oh man. He goes, "You want to go to a meeting?" Yep. Come pick me up. Yeah. So he did. And where'd we go? Nice Ferry. And so that started another good run, right?
That you're still on.
Yeah. And I would say it got me back in there more frequently, but not like what's happening now. Right. So needless to say, in between there, and I know we talked about that before, but in through all this, when I first got sober, right, I thought my son hadn't even turned 4 yet. It was right before his 4th birthday. And I was, I can do this until he's 18 and then he's on his way. Right. And then I can go back to doing whatever I want. And then each year it got a little bit closer to that 18 mark. Right. And as it got closer, I thought, well, that's the dumbest thing I ever said, but it was in my mind. I had to verbalize that because I had it inside. Nobody knew that. And I had to say that in a meeting level and say, hey, I had this in my head. I don't want that in there because I ain't giving this up, man. Right. Why would I do such a silly thing? Right. And so, yes, my son has never seen me drunk. Never
even seen you drink.
No. And he knows, he knows what I was like.
Yeah.
I've told him, and I'm sure other folks have told him. Right. And, he's free to ask whatever he wants, and I will never lie to him. Like, hey, whatever. And I told him that at 16, I said, you're still a little too young, but whenever, 18 or whatever, you can ask me whatever you want and I'll give you the truth. No good, bad, and ugly, and
you have to be.
Yeah. And it's more about, he doesn't know any different. Right. And we've went through some stuff. Right. And just be honest and do the next right thing kind of, and so, yeah. So never say 18 came and I was like, that's dumb. Yeah. Right. I never did that stuff.
That's the difference. Rob said the same thing about his kids, and they never saw you drink.
They don't remember.
They don't remember. You saying the same thing. My daughters had to watch it. Right?
Yeah.
So I still got to cross that bridge one of these days. Although we both had great conversations with my daughters. but
right. It's still there, right?
It's still there.
Listen, if I was to say that all of that guilt has been removed from me, I would be lying to you. The majority of it has, right? I don't wish to forget the past, nor shut the door on it, right? I own all of that.
Yep. Every day.
But I know the man that I am and have become and that I am today, right? And moving forward. So, I raised him well, his mother helped raise him very well. And so I don't, and then listen, I got a daughter that was just shy of 2 when I met her, and I've raised her. Right?
She's yours.
She's getting ready to graduate high school, right? And so I'm dad, right?
Yep.
And listen, if you told me that I was going to get married and have a daughter, because that all of that, I feel for you, Larry. You have a wife and 2 daughters. Like I struggle, man. Oh my gosh, all of that, right? So it's a bet, but it's not my plan.
Right.
You see, I needed that.
Right.
The growth that I got from having to learn to navigate living life with 2 uber sensitive females, right? And I mean uber. And I'm, you and I got a lot kind of the same. Yeah. I'm a matter of fact kind of person, right? And so I don't have a lot of the lovey-dovey, hugsy, it's like, here's what it is. Like, let's fix it.
Right. What's the cause?
Let's fix it. Let's move on. Like, and they don't always want us to fix it. They want us to listen, right?
I'm struggling with that one.
So my wife will tell you when you see her, ask her how many feelings I have. For a long time, I only have 1. Right? I'm up to 2.
You're gaining.
I'm up to 2 feelings. It's taken a long, slow growth of 2 feelings, and I'm proud of that. Right?
Yeah, good.
To be able to cry, to be able to listen and do those things. I'm not perfect at it, but I will tell you, it's been super awesome. Right? So,
it'll bring those other ones out.
Grandkids?
Wait till you get a couple of those right there, but I'm gonna tell you.
I told my son, you need to have 6. Dude, let's go.
You want to see emotions come out? Bring one of those around me, and you do anything to one of those right there, you're gonna die.
Right? Yeah. I believe you.
Right.
But Larry is emotional.
Oh, I'm very emotional.
He's very emotional.
I mean, I'm not.
How many years do we got stuffed in there though?
Oh, but a lot.
Not having that.
Right. I had none.
Right?
Yeah. I had none. I've always said that, when I got sober, it was it cracked me open. You guys have heard me say on there, the onions, just the layers of that just peeled off. I'll cry on a soap opera now. I mean, just literally anything will make me, you guys, shut up. Baby. Don't bring the ugly side out in me, Doug. I mean, when I start thinking about the stuff that I put my kids and my wife through, it hurts. It hurts.
It should.
It hurts. Katie and I were, we were having a conversation on the way home today, and it just, I start thinking about some of the stuff, and she, Katie and I work through stuff. I'm only, I think I'm approaching 900 days myself, and then, Katie and I are still working through stuff, right? Still working through stuff, and you know what? And for me, we were talking about her coming onto the podcast, right?
She's not ready.
No, it's not that she's not ready.
She's not ready.
I don't know, Doug or Rob, and I'm not going to answer that. When she wants to, she will. I mean, I'm not.
It will be awesome.
Everybody keeps saying you got to get Katie on. They got to get Katie on there. You know what? It's up to her. Yeah. These mics are here all the time. Her and I can walk up here anytime we want.
Yeah.
I mean, would it be better to have Rob sitting across from us? Yeah. Probably with Bonnie sitting here too. The 4 of us. Yeah. I mean, someday it may happen. Someday it may never happen.
Just don't let her bring a stick.
No.
Right? You might want to have somebody here.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Rob and Bonnie will be here, right?
Yeah.
Or Rob and somebody will be here. So I don't know if that'll ever happen. Katie and I have a lot of good conversations, and what's interesting, Doug, is they come out naturally, if that's the right word to say. They come out just like when I least expect them to sometimes, and my daughter is the same way. My youngest, she has no problems. She's basically told me, she was still living here when most of my drinking was happening. My hard stuff towards the end, as you said, towards the end when it got ugly. Miranda was not here. She didn't see a lot of it. There's still a lot there though, right? There's still a lot there, right?
Oh yeah.
So
they know more than we think they know.
Oh yeah,
and they were affected more than we know as well.
100%.
And everybody, because everybody
100%. So, I mean, I didn't mean.
Yeah. So I mean, like with my wife now, right? I was 6 years sober before we got together.
Right.
So she don't even really know the rough stuff.
She knows me in the 20s,
right.
My early 20s in high school. And then not right, and then back, and then I remember, I'm going to tell you. Is it God or God? And it's God every time, right? That we're together.
Yeah.
Like she's got her own story, right? And I remember her asking me, we were out to dinner that night with our friends and they wanted to go to the cow track. And I'm like, okay, whatever, we'll go down there, right? And you don't drink? I said, nope. I haven't for like 6 years. She was
your wife now asked you that? She didn't even know.
No.
Okay.
I hadn't seen her in forever, so it was just that was
your first date.
We were a group of friends that got together.
Oh, okay.
It was like Christmas time or something like that.
Gotcha.
And she was in town visiting her family, right? And so we all got together, all our friends, and then they wanted to go down there. And I remember her looking at me and saying, "You're not drinking?" I don't drink. And she was like, "Wow, all right." Because she'd been involed with a lot of that.
Here's my finger. Put a ring on.
Yeah. And I was like, I remember her leaving, and then we just stayed in touch. And I already knew.
Right.
Before 5 months later, she's living in my house.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's been.
Isn't it strange how that we know the day my wife walked me out from my hospital room and I walked her out to the front of the hospital, and on that walk back, I was like, yeah, I'm just done.
Yeah,
and I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, and I was the guy that said I'd never get married again.
Well, you'd been through a rough.
And look at when you look back, and I was involved with someone, and it didn't work out for her or and she went through a lot of crap, right?
Yeah.
And that's because of me. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to ever affect anybody like that ever again.
I didn't want to get married again,
right?
But I did.
Yeah.
That's about. Did you know I was married once before?
Yeah, I knew that. Okay. Yeah, no, we talked about that.
So I mean, that was majority of why I wasn't going to get.
Yeah, I fucked it up bad.
Yeah, exact words.
And when you guys said earlier that you didn't want to be like your dad, right? That and the reason why I asked you that is if that went through your head.
I want to be like my dad, which I finally turned out a lot like him. And they're different, but a lot like him.
My mom and dad divorced super young too, and I always said I won't do it. I won't. I don't divorce. My brother is the same way. My sister, we just said we're just not going to. I knew I wasn't going to divorce. I wasn't going to do it. I will do whatever I have to do to keep my marriage together. And Kate and I, every time we just worked through stuff together, right? I watched what my parents did, and I did the opposite of it, right? Just didn't. I really, when it came to marriage, that's what I did, right? When it came to my drinking, I didn't, right? It was a little different story. So I just knew that when I wasn't going to never even crossed mine, right?
Yeah.
Never. The divorce thing was never a thing for me because I wasn't going to do.
So Doug, bring us up to now to where you are today.
Well, tomorrow, God bless, it'll be 21 years, right? Of just one day after another. And, yeah. Well, I told you, I've been married 13 years or so, or will be. Kids are freaking awesome. Just
boys in the Navy, right?
Yeah. Ripping life. Just,
but your fire now is.
So yeah, let's bring it back, right? Your point was that, was it 18 years?
Yes.
Sobriety. So I had drifted away from my sponsor. Love the man, just doing life. Right. And doing a lot of church. Right. And so we will go to church together, Rob and I, and one day he'd ask, who called me? Was it you? When was it? To go to errands.
Yes, it was me.
So he said, hey, we're going to do this deal, right? I want you to come out there. I said, sounds good, right? I hadn't been doing a ton of meetings.
Because it was me, Aaron started, Jason, Ryan, and then I called you.
Yeah, and so showed up.
It was four of us.
So we showed up, started doing that, and then, the rest of the story with the other guys. But anyway, that really got me into the book. And then we had chatted a little bit. And then one day after church, we were walking across, and you're like, hey, I need to talk to you. I said, I need to talk to you. He goes, I'm kind of needing a sponsor. I need someone to bounce some stuff off. I said, I was going to say the same thing.
Oh, the two of you together.
Yeah, so we kind of, co-sponsor each other, right? And we rarely blow each other up. I mean, every once in a while.
On the way out here to this meeting, I did.
Yeah.
I said, I'm glad he goes, can I come get you? I need to talk.
Good.
But it's not always, but.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't have that need as much anymore, right? But when we do, I know who to call. Like, there's multiple people now. So the point is going to that deal that was started.
Doug wanted to, remember Chris wanted to sharpen some things up?
Yep.
Doug wanted to sharpen some things up and go back through. I said, I go, well, you're my sponsor, and I'll take you through these, and we're just going to.
Yeah.
I said, I need someone to take me back through the steps. So, Rob, how many years in between steps for me?
Well,
remember?
18 years sober.
So it was
18 years.
Yeah. So year one, started? Before year one, right. And then we did it at 18. So that's how far in between before I did my steps again, right? So I will tell you that the first time I did it, at 5, 6, 7 months sober, right? Did what it at that point in time, right?
Did what the book tells us.
Didn't do anything after that.
He did what his sponsor at that time asked him to do.
Right.
And so with this meeting and stuff that we started, or Rob started, or whatever, God started.
God did it.
We started getting together, and I had listened to Rob speak many a times at going to meetings and seeing him around town, right? And I was like, I like what he's got. And that's the tip. Like, you pick people out, like, I want what they got.
That's right.
Because there's a lot of people, I don't want anything they got, right? I want what he's got.
And I want what Doug has.
It's honesty. It's no BS, because this is a life or death thing.
Right. Oh yeah.
So that attracted me to what Rob had to offer. And I said, hey, I'd heard him talk about how he goes through the steps, and it's right there in the book. It tells us exactly. Okay. So we did that, and we went like we do, right?
Did you find a lot more when you went through your steps the second time? Was there stuff between, but yes. Did you go prior to your first and your second time around? So your second time around when doing your steps, you'll understand why I'm asking these questions in a minute. The second time going around doing your steps, did you only go back those last 12 years?
No,
we went through the whole thing.
So you went all the way back, all the way.
Yeah, because he'll only know what I tell him as we're doing stuff. So the stuff that I had already done,
right?
I just kind of talked about.
Okay.
So I didn't put pen to paper on that stuff. However,
the reason why I ask is because it tells us to let go absolutely.
Yeah.
And my question is, do you feel like you let go absolutely that first time around? Okay.
Absolutely.
That's what I was
Good
going
question.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
We would have got to that, but yeah, you're thinking
I'd
just like
shut up, Larry.
No, that's perfect, because as we did, Rob shows in the book, I'm like, all right, and he explained to me the timeline and all that stuff in there. I never even know. I read the book several times, never even noticed that until you have someone tell you, right? He dug a lot of stuff out, and I was like, holy crap, right? Mm-hmm. And so more will be revealed. Right? And we did that, and I got to clean some more garbage up, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of it had to do with some amends to redo, right? But what really, and I don't know if I've even told you this, maybe we did. We're sitting in my backyard and going through the steps, and Rob listens like he does. He's very attentive, and he points out, so you got a lot of abandonment issues, don't you? I was like, yeah. Like, I would have never have thought that, right? But because he listens and I'm telling him, hey, my mom packed my dad's bag, and I watched that, right? One of the worst things ever, right? I'm abandoned, right? We move. So we go through all that stuff, right? And he's telling me, and I'm like, right. And then, there's a couple people on my men's list that has to be taken care of, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know, Rob. And one came up that I didn't even think about, right? It was my sister, right? So, I had thought I had taken care of the stuff with my mom, right? A few years before this, she had been out here, and she lives in another state, don't see her very often. And she knew that she needed to make some amends to me. And she told my wife, how do I approach him? Right? I guess I'm not approachable sometimes. So she was struggling, like, how am I going to tell my son, I'm sorry for some things, right? So my wife says, hey, you need to go have coffee with your mom. I'm like, why?
I remember when this happened.
Why? Right? So she needs to talk to you. You need to go. And I'm thinking, she wants to clear some stuff up, or, something like that. She's not dying, right? And so we do that. And we shed some tears, and I tell her, okay, but I don't let go of it 100%. I don't, I'm like, okay. And I hope she got some relief out of it. I got a little bit, but I didn't do what I should have done at that moment. Right. And said, you're forgiven. That's what should have taken place, but it didn't. And so I ate that for a few more years. I held it in there. Right. And it's not done yet. It wasn't done. So we go through steps and that comes back out. He's like, you gotta do this. And I think, no, it was like my mom and somebody else. And then my sister comes up, right? And she was way out over here. Like, I don't even know where that came up, but I started talking to Rob about it. I said, hey, I treated her badly, right? And I thought I was better than.
She was older, right?
Yeah. And she had her struggles in life too, right? And some things.
Well, and Doug felt, because in his story, what we heard was she was 18, she was gone. She's out of the chaos. And Doug felt, well, you son of a bitch.
My brother.
You're just going to leave me.
My brother did the same.
You left me.
Felt the same way.
Yeah.
So he had to go.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm by myself with this freaking sideshow. So she came up, and then I was like, I held that against her all these years, and look at me. Well, I'm no better.
Right.
Look at where I'm at. Well, look at what I had to walk through, right? So, and she's well on her way now too, so it's good. But anyway, I had to pray a lot. What's that?
You said she was well on her way. Is she a drinker too?
Yeah, she has her own story, right?
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And again, honor God.
Right.
It's always God. Yeah. So my mom never lost faith ever, and always prayed for us, right? That someday we will get it, right? Never, even when she was at her worst, she still knew God, right?
Good.
And that's what got her where she's at today. But anyway, so I had to make those amends, and I was like, man, I don't know how long I sat on it, but I needed to do it. And I knew, Rob, you got to get it done because I'm not going to run into her at the grocery store. She lives a long ways away. Right. So I was like, I prayed. He's like, you can pray about it and give you the opportunity. So I did. I picked up the phone one day and said, I got to talk to you, and she's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Kind of. So you just need to listen. Did my thing, right? Cried, all that fun stuff. She's like, thank you so much. I said, Mom, I got to call my sister right now. She's like, what? I need to talk. She's okay. Call me after you're done. So anyway, same thing. Called my sister and said, hey, you just need to listen. Let me talk, right? And she cried and I cried. And then you know who I called next? Rob. You're not going to believe this. Yes, I will.
I've heard that before.
Everything that he had said would happen happened, and it was so uplifting, and the yoke came off, right, Larry?
Mm-hmm.
But yet I still hadn't done all of it.
Yeah, well,
that I thought I did, right? And so it was just a little while ago where I said, Rob, and it just comes to me.
Right.
We're leaving a Monday night, our group, and I said, Rob, I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
I said, hey, I still have a resentment against my mother. And he looked at me. He goes, well, I got the answer right here. You go over to
page 552.
552 is my new favorite page. And he goes, right here in the book. What was it? Right here. And we read it together, or he read it to me. I said, okay. He goes, that's what you do. It wasn't him. It says right here in the book. But he knew where to go in the book to tell me what to do. And I was like, I'm dumb. It's right here.
Pray for them what you want. Yeah.
For 2 weeks, right? And did that. And it's all's good in the hood, right? So I'm blessed beyond, Larry. I am, don't get me wrong, life happens. But I have tools that allow me to deal with life today, right? And I've got the group of men that we got, and you're going to be shaking your head too. But so since 2018, when that started, on fire is the way I feel. I think we all are. Are we all not on that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And look what God has done.
Through us.
Through what you guys
as a
started.
Vessel.
Right.
I mean, just being a vessel. Right. It's everybody.
No, it's all of us.
It's every single one of us.
When I came to you guys, it was I can tell you, it was May, June. It was July of 2022 is when I came. But you guys had just started the meeting back up.
Right.
And we were at Brad's house.
Right.
The first time. This is like right after him and her. Well, him and Grace had been split up for a couple months. But yeah, that's when I came in, and you guys had just started the meeting back up. But now it's 19 people strong, 20 people.
Yeah, that was great.
We've been through 3. This will be our 4th facility because we kept outgrowing them. We went from Brad's to Aaron's, to Kevin's.
Aaron's to Brad's.
Okay. And then to Kevin's place. And now where we're at now, I mean, it's big enough to where we could still grow there. But if we get much bigger, we're going to have to move out of that place.
Well, God's got a handle on it.
Yeah.
God's going to take us to where we've been originally headed the whole time.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
what is that?
The church.
Yeah, but it's only Saturday.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
It's only Saturday.
I mean, I just look at, I said, On Fire, I like it when Rob tells him how that even came about, right? How did we get to Aaron's house?
No, we never did. Well, it was right after COVID, 2021. Because I didn't do Zoom meetings. I really couldn't. Aaron didn't. It was just me and him, and we would call. At that point, we would just call and they just bitch about whatever, because we were spiritually unfit, just not doing our thing, right? And he'd call, and we know the things you wouldn't normally complain about. We're just complaining about everything because we're not thinking about drinking, but we're just venting. Mm. And I'm on the freeway, and I can tell you by the make, model, color of the car, who's driving it, their ethnicity, their age, their gender. I can tell you, I'm on the freeways all the time. And I know Doug can too. I know you can too. So, this prick in a white BMW, he's back here, and we're bumping. We're doing 80 miles an hour. We're bumper to bumper. You can't get in here. You can just see him, going out wide, hitting the 3 lanes, trying to
go nowhere.
Just getting unsafe. Eventually, he does, and he's right ahead of me, and just cuts. About kills everybody. And I'm screaming, pull over, and I'm reaching under the dash, because when I was a foreman, like where Brad is now, I would have to show up to the plants at night, because people would break in, and I'd get a call from our security people, but I would always beat the sheriff out there. So I shouldn't say this, but I did, because my safety, I would have a pistol.
Right.
So when this prick did what he did, and I'm trying to get him to pull over, and I'm reaching, and I was really like, so I start talking to myself. I start talking to myself. Rob, what are you reaching for? I'm reaching for my fucking pistol. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna put one right through that. And I probably would have. We had Jason Allen here. Jason Allen can tell you a few stories.
Oh yeah.
I probably would have. So I pull over to the side of the freeway, just like, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, come on.
Right.
So I call up Aaron. I said, hey, and I tell him the story, and he goes, hey, do you think we should start that meeting up again? So I go, yes, we should. So that day was a Monday. We met at his house, and we prayed. God, we're going back and we're doing this. If you will, please bless us. Bless this time. We promise you, we will leave no stone unturned in search for your truth, and help other men, bring as many men. So then the second meeting of showed up and called Doug. Doug was there for the third, and there was the first 4.
And then one after another.
Then God
showing up.
God just brought them. Then just brought them.
Yeah, no,
but it started like that,
right? And it just keeps growing. But to go for the listeners, that's the part of this recovery process that I feel is extremely important, right? Is that fellowship that you have, right? If I had to say my home group, I'm calling my Monday night my home group. Yeah. I mean, that it's not a true, we're not affiliated with AA in that meeting. It's literally, we run that meeting like a group, like a bar. Let's just call it it is. It's a bar. It's a group of guys that go in and talk. We break out the book, we read the book, but there's a lot of times, even if we're in that book, we go down a completely different path because something takes it that way.
If a brother has something to share, there's a blessing that takes place. We had Matt and at the time when Matt and Mary were, when Adam was going through it, and then that was a lot of that was going on. So the meeting is not about this. The meeting is about us, and strengthening us to go out into God's world and
be fruitful
and touch lives, man. Yeah, whoever's lives.
Right. So when we talk about sponsorship, and I'm going to kind of transition into that. You good, Doug? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go away from your story. If you had anything less you want to take, we're going to transition over to sponsorship a little bit. And you know what's funny is I it's not that I didn't have. I knew we were going to come in and talk, but I was like, well, I want to be able to talk about something that we've talked about, and we've talked about this a few times. And we keep bringing up sponsorship. And I knew I was going to have Doug in here and Rob at the same time, which you guys have done. You guys have done a bunch of sponsoring. I know Rob has done a ton, and I know you have done some, and I'm not one that sits over and says, fuck that, I ain't going to sponsor, right? This is how I'm doing mine. This is how I carry the message my way, right? And I want to talk a little bit about that because you said it in your story, right? I want what he has. When I got out of Maynard's, the first thing I did, when Chris, who was in here last week, said, do this, do this, do this, do this. And as I said in that, if he'd have told me to go stand on the freeway and count the cars, I would have done that to stay sober, right? I was going to do whatever it took to get sober because I had that moment of clarity and I felt the peace starting to come into me and I knew there was more to go. And so he told me, go here, meet with this guy, right? And do these steps. And that's what I did. But I knew almost immediately when I met with that sponsor that he, and I love him to death, him and his wife. I love him, but it wasn't going to go anywhere. I knew that I knew that I wasn't comfortable. And I knew that wasn't where it's going to be. So I was very fortunate that I was able to find Rob, or I was introduced to Rob.
That man brought you to me.
So, here's one of the things. Here's the first thing I went through is, may a newcomer change a sponsor, and it was one of the first things. That
he's reading out of a pamphlet.
Yeah, this is a pamphlet. The AA, the sponsor. That's questions and answers on a sponsorship. And like I said, I found this today. Right, because I knew Doug was coming, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not for sure that other topic. I knew we were going to tell your story, but I tend to like to talk about some other things, especially when you have kind of a panel. And I was like, oh, you know what? Sponsorship. We've talked about it tons of times. Let's talk about it a little bit. So when I bring that up is, when Jay introduced me to you, what was one of the first things is like, how am I going to tell Jay? How am I going to tell Jay that I'm going to go with Rob? And Rob tells me, oh, he'll figure it out.
He will. He'll figure it out.
And he did. I mean, it never even asked me. Right?
But a lot of people that struggle with that. They don't want, and they stay in a bad sponsor-sponsee relationship or mentor, whatever the word you want to use. It can be bad and unhealthy. And they stay there out of guilt. They stay there out of...
And they're uncomfortable there.
But they stay there for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it drives me nuts.
I don't know.
But to their detriment, because it hurts them. They go out and drink it. Well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Listen.
Right.
Well, what is my, okay, to you guys, everybody knows my four rules. I've said them on this. What's rule number 3 that Rob has? If at any time you want to go a different direction, go, grow. You will not hurt my feelings. I'm just here to help.
Yeah. And you know what? And I felt better after we started through going through my steps with you. Mm-hmm. I knew that I would have never done that and gotten to that position because at the time when I was introduced to Rob, I was getting into a little plateau that I wasn't comfortable with. And when I watched Rob, which I'm going to say this, when I watched God walk in front of Rob, because that's literally how you state things is I don't do anything. God walks in before me,
right? Open the door, let God walk in first, and you come in second. But
when I saw I immediately, I want what he's got, whatever it is, I want what he's got. And that attraction was immediate, right? It was immediate. And when he told me the 4,
even being a short hobbit,
I didn't know how I knew I was going to have to put some stilts on a chair in my house in order for you to see us.
Which I appreciate.
For us to see eye to eye. I had to lower mine and raise yours so, we can kind of get on the same level. But, when he got here the first time and when he cracked open that book and said, here we go. And it was literally, it was just, it was like a whirlwind. And I feel like there's stuff now because that happened within the first 6 weeks or 7 weeks of me coming out of Maynard's. I was done with my steps. And I feel now 2.5 years, I'm probably going to start going through these again. Being with what Doug said, it's not that I feel I'm pulling away. I feel it's probably there's more. I want to maybe get deeper because there's some time. And
maybe have another man, maybe Pat, or I'll take you back through them, or maybe hit someone else how they want to do it. Whatever you want to do, but it wouldn't hurt anybody.
I don't know if I'm like, oh my God, I got to do my steps again. I'm just like, if that right person in that right situation comes along, I'll probably say, hey, let's go. Let's you and I walk through these steps together. And like I said, it could be Rob, it could be Doug, it could be anybody in the groups, and it could be somebody completely outside the group. Yeah. I don't know. But I know that eventually I'm going to go through those steps again, only because I know what it felt like when I first came out of those steps. And I know that there's still more in there. There is still more in there. And,
well, we just had somebody, Doug,
right?
More. He quoted the book, "More will be revealed." It just got revealed.
It did,
so
and I'm going to say this:
act on that,
right? I edited some stuff out prior to this,
right?
That I cut out,
right?
Because what Doug's story triggered some stuff in me that I had forgotten about. And we talked about it off air, and I'm going to cut it out because to me, if I had already spoken to the people that we just talked about, if I'd already spoken to them people, I'd have no problem talking about it. I just don't want that personal stuff being aired before I have a chance to talk to somebody, but this is what I'm talking about. More stuff will be revealed. So do I need to go through the steps again? Probably. Am I saying I got to run right out and do it? Absolutely not. Because I have zero obsession for alcohol, but I know what I do have an obsession for, and that's that peace and serenity that I have. And I know that comes from a sponsor.
You're going to go do them right away because you just discovered something, right? And you can't let that lie.
Doug, you know me all too well.
What it provides is that deeper relationship with God. Because
100%.
And the reason that touched you, as we grow spiritually, which is called sanctification, if you want to use Christianese,
right?
But as we are able, as we mature, God will open up more to our spirit, and then we will see. And when that happens, you act upon it, and that's how because it's a relationship, and that's how that deepens. And there's going to be unpeel that onion,
right?
And feelings will come. It's awesome. It's a gift.
We got a brother right now that's kind of a part of the program, and he's still struggling getting into his balance. He new out of Maynard's. And you guys know who I'm talking about. And we just talked yesterday again. And, I'm talking to him, get that sponsor. He still hasn't got into his balance yet. But
the longer you wait.
Right. Here we go.
The more danger you're in.
Yep.
And you won't do it. Then that insanity comes back. That obsession will come back.
That's where I was going.
That's what happens. That's why you got to hit it.
Yep.
You got to hit it and hit it fast.
Yeah, that's where
because the odds are not in his favor.
No, that's where I was going, Rob. Is I told him, I'm like, listen, man, here's what happens, right? When you come out of whether you come out of a treatment center or you come out of a hotline that Doug did, or whatever it was that you said, I got to do something different, right? Whatever that is, the quicker you do that, the less chance of that spark and that action dwindling, right? The quicker you get through it, that fuse is only so long, right? Before it either going to go out and nothing happens.
Well, why do you think treatment centers are 28 days? Why do you think in Doug's story,
30 days.
30 days. You take the alcohol away, your body starts feeling good.
The willingness,
right?
The human pride and ego come back. Hey, maybe I was making a bigger deal out of this,
right?
And then they think they can go have one, and sometimes that one, they don't come.
Days or 28. It'll be different this time. Yeah, that's the insanity part.
That's the insanity part.
So that's why you got to go.
Right. Yeah. So that's that. So I was telling him, do me a favor, right? Get into a meeting, get in the meeting with us, right? Anybody. It doesn't have to be with us. We're not magical. Just get back into a meeting because he was kind of starting. At first, he was hitting the meetings all the time, but he started doing them on Zoom, right? And listen, I'm not talking anything about Zoom, right?
Yeah,
if that works, great. I personally, I like the human contact, being in a room with people, right? I do Zoom when I'm traveling. I'll do it. I'll jump online. There's a couple that I've kind of enjoyed being a part of. But for the most part, there's nothing better than being in a room with like-minded people. There's nothing better than that. And so anyways, that the sponsorship and the other question that comes up in that is should a newcomer pick somebody that's a lot like him? And
how do you know? If you're a newcomer, you have no idea what those people are like. What my suggestion is, because you don't, unless you know someone in there.
Right.
What I did, my big brother, who was Larry, not this Larry, said I wanted to meet certain people. I left Maynard's on a Thursday, came home, went to a meeting that Thursday. I knew what I had to do, because the one thing that you said, Larry, about your story, if Chris would have asked you to count cars,
right?
You had the one thing that none of us can give to another person. The one thing that they need more than anything, desire.
Oh, I had.
We can have all the answers. We can give them the greatest story. But if they don't have that,
right,
go get finished or go find it somewhere else. So when I walked into a room, there was a bunch of men. I introduced myself, all these men, but the one man, he had what I wanted. He looked, I didn't know how many years sober he met. It didn't fucking matter. He looked comfortable in his own skin more than, man, but that's what I saw.
Right.
I didn't know that's what I saw, but that cat is comfortable. And that's what I want, because I was never comfortable. So
I was the opposite. I chose Bill because he was the opposite of me.
Really?
And that's what I thought I needed, was the opposite. But he wasn't.
Right.
But you also said,
teddy bear.
But you also said that this man ain't going to take none of my shit. Yeah. He's going to hold me accountable.
Right.
And it wasn't like that at all.
Right.
It really wasn't. He was soft
so that goes to your question. That goes to your point. We don't know.
Right.
Go get one.
Right.
And just like the first question you asked, if they're not right, go get another one.
Go get another one.
Because always remember this, and I tell everybody this: it's your life, it's your sobriety, it's your program.
Right.
It was the program, but it's your life and your sobriety. If it fails, you cannot blame your sponsor. If you go get drunk, it ain't your sponsor's fault.
But so many people do, though, Rob. But so many people do.
Because there's piss poor sponsorship.
Right. Well,
point blank.
Yeah. But it's okay. Piss poor sponsorship. But let's go back to what we talked about last time, right?
Oh, it's not all sponsorship's fault.
Okay.
It's your responsibility.
Thank you.
It is your sobriety. It is your life.
Because if
you are responsible.
If I'd have chosen the sponsor that we talked about last time, you know who I'm talking about in the other meeting. If I'd have went to him first, and I'd have stuck with that one sponsor, I'd have been drunk.
No doubt.
I would have, because it's not my style of sponsorship.
But if you would have got drunk, that wouldn't have been his fault.
That's my point. That's what I'm trying to get back to. So it's not the sponsor's fault.
No.
If I wasn't smart enough to go there, I got to back out of here. So I think the biggest thing is that I want to get out of this is that, because I want our listeners to understand, it's like, I was very fortunate, and Doug, you were very fortunate. My first sponsor I was attracted to immediately, like looking at my wife the day I walked her out I knew right away that this is the one I'm going to spend the rest of my life with until once something happens to one of us, right? That's the man I'm going to attach my wagon to. And I did. And it worked out great for me, right? It worked out great because I got to meet, Doug and I went to school together, but we knew each other. But I got to meet Brad. I got to meet Aaron. I got to meet Pat. I got to meet everybody. Michael, Tranny Mike. Let's, dude. That is by far the best. That is the best. And
he builds transmissions.
I didn't want to tell. I want him to think we actually hung around with a tranny. Man, those guys really do love people. Everybody. So I got that opportunity. But if I hadn't have made that decision to do it, I don't know where I'd have been. Right. I don't know where I'd have been. So the decision that attraction that I had, I knew I wanted that. But if I didn't have that attraction, if I'd have went with another sponsor, what would my decision have been? I want to make sure that people that are listening to this understand, if you're not comfortable,
go get another one.
Be gone.
And if you want to go tell them, hey, I'm going to go this direction and I like so-and-so, go. If you don't, go anyway.
And if that sponsor, I want to make sure bring this up. If that sponsor gives you a hard time about going somewhere else,
you made the right decision.
You made a quick and great decision. Yeah, be gone and cut ties, because that is not
question, right? So a lot of times you'll see folks that come out of the rehab, right, and they go into a meeting and they're just, I need a sponsor, and they're looking around, who's going to sponsor? Do you like that approach? Like, if you haven't sat through a meeting to hear what someone has to offer first.
I don't like that approach.
Okay, no. And that's why I asked the question, because I'm the same way, right? It's like,
and I don't
because of what you were saying, right? Like, if you would have just said, "Hey, Joe," and that guy, and you're like, it might have been a disaster.
Right. What else I don't like is when someone walks up, "Hey, I'm going to be your temporary sponsor till you get one." I don't like that either.
There's nowhere in the book.
Desire.
Right.
You want to see desire. That's why, and sometimes you'll people, hey, give me a call for 30 days because they're checking the people's.
So my sponsor did.
I want to bring up a question though.
I don't do that, but
I want to play devil's advocate right now for you. If I come up to you and say, hey, I'm going to be your temporary sponsor till you find one, what's for you to say that guy's just not trying to do of some kind of service just to keep himself inside the program?
Maybe. I just don't. I don't care for that approach, and I don't do it, and I don't care for that approach.
Is it wrong or is it right?
Yeah, we don't person, know, right?
Yeah,
we're not trollers.
I'm sure there's been stories that have started that way and turned out beautiful. Yeah. I just don't care for that.
Right. Yeah, the two times I was asked to be a sponsor, it came from out of the blue for me. Yeah. Right. I mean, they approached me after a meeting and asked me, and I was too stupid to say no.
And make sure, and here's something that I'm going to say that
right.
People You might think it's a no-brainer, but trust me, it's not.
Right.
Make sure the person you ask has had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. They had to work through their steps.
Do you think somebody new is going to be able to do that? I mean,
know.
think about it. Think about it.
I know you're right.
And that's what we're doing here. We're trying to educate
they listen
people.
To this.
Right.
Hey,
we're trying to educate. Or if you know somebody that, hey, make sure when you do go get a sponsor that person is spiritually fit. And if you walk into...
I've seen it happen, and I've seen devastating effects happen, and I've seen poor sponsorship happen, and devastating effects happen. I got like I was going to tell you the story. We'll say her name is Jill, because that's her fucking name. She came in about the same time I did. She lives in Visalia, great friend, married, doing great. She's only got, no, I shouldn't say, I never say only, I hate when people say only. She has 5 years sober now. She came in, same time I did, got a sponsor. Going through these things and looking through her step work, she looked at her sponsor and said, "Holy shit, I'm a terrible human being." That's what she had come up with. And her sponsor said, "No, baby." Me and Jill were talking. This is what she said. She says, "No, baby, you're a good person. Alcohol made you do it."
Nope. 2
weeks later, she's drunk. She goes on another run again. She came back in right now. Rob Thomas goes through his steps, sitting in front of Jay, and I'm going through my 4-step, and I'm just, I wasn't the devil, and I wasn't an angel. But I wasn't who I thought I was either. And I'm looking at this like, dude, I'm horrible. I'm a piece of shit. And Jay didn't know. He just said, "Wait, you know how Jay is." Well, son, if that's what you think, I've got good news. You don't have to stay that way. That's all he said. He did not take that gift away from me, right? Didn't try to soften it. He let me have my truth. I'm a piece of, from looking at this, if good people do good things, if smart people do smart things, assholes do this shit on this paper that I just wrote on. That's me. And little Eric I talked to yesterday, he had this, we were out in the pond doing, he was walking and crying and going through his steps. And he looked at me and goes, "Rob, I'm a piece of fucking shit." And I said, "Well, Eric, I've got good news for you." I didn't do the whole Jay thing, but I go, "I got good news for you." And he's looking at me with tears and snot. And like, look, he wants, at that point, that man wanted, because he was, I go, "You don't have to stay that way.
No.
You don't have to.
Nope.
Do these steps in the power of God. You can transform. You can be transformed."
The only thing original around here is the guys that put it in there.
Yeah.
We're just telling it, right?
We regurgitate it. Sometimes we put our own little spin on things, but
100, right?
It's, you know what? And I want to reiterate this again. People hear us talk about the steps. People hear us talk about God. People hear us talk about everything that happens. And if you know somebody that this didn't work for, don't blame this program. Don't blame these steps.
Don't blame God.
Don't blame God.
Don't blame their sponsor.
Don't do that, please. It's because that person didn't put into action what we're to be doing,
or they weren't done yet,
weren't done yet. They're just
like two things,
or life got good and they went back in. That's what usually happens. That's why when Doug just talked about 6 years, you don't see a lot of 5 to 8 to 10 years, which actually 5 to 8,
right?
Because that's when life starts getting really good. Yep. The blessings are coming, and 9 times out of 10, you guys, Doug's been around longer than I have. 9 times out of 10, when someone has worked the steps, had a spiritual awakening thereof, does this program, when they go back out, it's not because life got hard.
Nope.
Life got good.
Right.
And they stopped going to meetings. Right. You were going to say that.
The big 3. Go ahead, tell me, Doug, what are the big 3 that they stopped?
I'm just saying, you stop going to meetings, right? The other part is you stop praying, in my personal
opinion. Stop talking to God, or your higher power.
Right.
Yeah.
What's and you stop working with others.
Stop working with others.
Or you stop fellowshipping.
Right. The fellowshipping to me is
the same thing.
Key.
100%.
It's always the big 3. And if you go ask someone with 3, 10, 30, 40 years who I've talked to, well, life got good, Rob. I quit praying so much, quit working with others or being around others, quit going to meetings. The big 3. So they got unspiritually, they didn't say spiritually fit.
Yep.
All of a sudden, a drink sounds good.
Yeah. You talk to anybody, like I said, I was in at treatment for probably 15, 14 days, and this old man come in there.
15 years.
And he sobered up, blah, blah, blah. About 3 or 4 days in it, got to conversating. He goes, "Oh, no, I've been through this before." "Oh, really?" He goes, "Yeah, I had 15 years sober." I'm like, what? I was just baffled by that. 15 years sober. Yeah, so we went through that. He told me the whole story, but then when I started coming with you, our friend, he was right at 5 years when I first started coming in with you guys. And he was struggling a little bit, and he realized that he was starting to get into what you just talked about, that 5 or 6 years, that everything was starting to roll real good, right? And he had to dive back into this, started getting back into the meetings, and here's where I'm blessed is that I'm around you guys to where, I'm in the 2 to 5 bracket right now, right? I'm in that 2 to 5 bracket. So we're working hard. Brad and I, there's a few other guys in our group that we're in that 2 to 5 bracket, right? But here's the one thing I know. I am not going to fall away from that Monday meeting. I'm not going to fall away from, because of the stories that I've heard, because of what I'm told in those rooms, because of everything I hear, I'm not scared, right? There's no reason to be scared of it, no fear of it. I just know I got to continue to do it, right? That's why when people ask me,
take medicine, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. I know I got to take this medicine for the rest of my life. I want to talk about one other thing real fast. And, so we've had a few things come up, recently, with some friends. We had a friend in our Waterford fellowship that passed away recently. We don't know if it was, and I'm not going to speculate whatsoever. He had a few years sober. He recently lost, he went home to be with the Lord, and I don't know the whole reasons, but he was one of us. And we got some other friends in that are currently fighting it. And, this is a new one for me, right? Because I am starting to see in firsthand the results of years.
You're talking about the body shutting down because of years of alcohol abuse, the liver, the kidneys, everything starts to, your body starts to stop working. But
the one guy, he had a few years under his belt, right? But
the damage had been done. That we assume that is where it's at. I'm assuming, let me put it that way. So I don't know for sure, but I sure watched his health go bad, right? I watched it go. And it was sad to watch, right? So I just want to bring up, and Rob, you brought up something last week, and Doug, I know you're going through a few things as well. I just wanted to encourage just maybe some quick thoughts on that. Doug, I'll start with you.
I haven't experienced a ton of that, oddly enough, right? But some. Right. And the guy that you were just talking about, right? I was going to some meetings and I saw him not sick.
Right. Yeah.
And then I hear, hey, this is what's going on. What? And now he's passed, right?
He went quick.
Yeah. And, he was cheering. He was happy.
Right.
He was
awesome.
Doing the deal.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Good, bad, and ugly. He was doing the deal. Right. And so, one thing that I think it's important to put out there is that, when we go through this recovery and you're recovered and you're that, you don't know what damage you've done to your body.
That's right.
And as you kick the can down the road, we don't know what's coming, right? Your body's still your body. So, it happens more often than not that when folks get sober and they go through that, people get sick, things happen, right? And they've got to go do other things, right? And whatever that might be. But yeah, so, to your point, got a couple things going on in life right now. We're seeing it firsthand. And it tells you in the book about it's a painful, nasty way to go. Right. It ain't, sometimes it's quick, sometimes it ain't.
Right.
And there's only so much that can be done.
Yep.
You ain't reversing it.
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
And even if it's getting a liver, right, your life's never the same after that. It's going to be,
you go to the bottom of the transplant list too.
It all depends on what happens. There's a whole myriad of things that take place in that environment, right? Everything has to be just right, and where you're at, and it's medicine and healthcare, right? It's like what's the rest of your life expectancy look like compared to you or you?
Yeah.
So there's some of those things, but it is just a horrible, nasty way, and we need to say that stuff, man.
Oh, 100%. Yes, we do.
I'm not gonna say the F word because I try not to cuss.
Thank you, Doug. But one of us has to.
Yeah, one of us has to be able to do it. But
appreciate you.
Yeah, right.
It's fucking ugly. It's ugly, painful way to go, and it's self-inflicted.
Right. It is.
But who? Because me going through cancer. Right? Was it self-inflicted?
Not self-inflicted that we know of.
It could have been we're breathing all this shit, doing all this stuff we've done.
True.
However, the one that suffers the most was my wife.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who get, I mean, don't be wrong, cancer sucked. But the ones I would rather go through it than watch.
Watch it.
But when you're going through
Yep.
liver shutting down and that ugly, you're
Yep.
bloated, all that, who's suffering?
Right.
Yeah, you are, but you did that to yourself.
Right.
One, look at the family.
Oh yeah.
Who's probably been begging, who's been praying,
Right.
and
Who saw it coming.
saw it
Right.
coming, and here they are. It's ugly,
Right.
and it's so avoidable.
Time to make peace.
Right.
Yeah.
My
You're right.
family.
Make whatever it is right is my point in that. You know,
Yes,
if you're not going to take that opportunity to make it right. And what is that?
Right.
I'm just saying, for me, I want to make sure my family knows I love them, right?
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure that, hey, this is all me and not you,
Yep.
right? If I have the capacity to.
Right.
If you're still way in the disease, you're probably just fighting,
Wallowing-
banging your
Right.
head in the wall again,
Right.
right?
wallowing in self-pity.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My family watched.
Pour me
yeah.
another drink.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's an opportunity there that, you know, you don't know. I don't know that I'll be here tomorrow.
Don't.
Right?
Nothing.
It's
Nothing.
guaranteed.
Right.
So, well, hey,
Yeah, my family watched me lose 45 pounds in 2 weeks. That was drastic.
you were right on your way.
I was
my friend.
quickly going. Had a doctor tell me,
Well,
you
had it.
Yeah.
You had liver shutdown, right?
Right.
Yeah, my body stopped processing liquor. That's
Yep.
that
And
was
if it's
time.
not processing liquor, it ain't processing anything.
Yeah.
Nope.
You know, and I
It doesn't just say,
know.
this is
I was swollen and shiny with the yellow
Water's-
eyes.
yeah.
Beautiful,
Yeah. I
beautiful
couldn't-
eye, beautiful color of jaundice.
Yeah. I couldn't eat. It was
I
brutal.
wasn't quite where our friend was.
You can't sleep.
No, God.
Well,
Every hour and a
that's
half.
why I drink, Doug. How am I going to get to sleep if I don't
Oh,
keep
my.
doing this? I'll never get to
It's a
sleep.
vicious cycle.
Fear of not being able to sleep.
I was afraid of everything. I was a pussy.
All right.
Hey, but to Doug's point about when I went in to talk to the hip doctor to get, but when I was working on this, getting the plans, hey, what are we going to do? And he's like asking me, and I was like, how did this go into a few things? He goes, did you ever abuse alcohol?
No.
How that? Well, of course, I'm sober.
Right.
I'm,
Right.
12 years or 10 years sober this time. Like that could have. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that could. So I go, well, yes, sir, I did. For quite a
Use
while.
the shit out of it.
And then some, and other things.
But it's been a bit.
Yeah. And some, what do we call it? Peruvian white marching powder.
Right.
I do some of that. So yes, but the effects alcohol has,
White marching powder.
are long suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't know. Was a fear of mine too. But
Right.
as you see it, as we get to sit around the rooms long enough, right? You see folks that come in maybe at a different age, right?
Uh-huh.
So I always think if I was 60 and had been doing pretty, and I'm having that, would I?
Quit.
Would I?
No.
And if I was the same person I was,
I've thought that too.
I would be like,
Right. Yeah.
Get
Fuck
finished.
it.
get finished. I'll
right.
just take care of it, right?
Right.
What's the point now?
Right.
What's the point? Man, you got a lot of living to do.
Right.
We've seen people come in at 60 and who are now 70,
Right.
80 years old,
Hell to the yeah.
and have touched, and it's just such a.
And they're like, man, I cannot believe how great life is. And
Now, do they wish they'd come in at 50, 40, 30?
Oh, sure.
Of course they do.
I did.
But
I do.
but it didn't.
You didn't.
And so you can't think like that. You just
Yeah.
got to say, today,
I'm grateful I came
sober
in
and
when I did.
I'm getting the promises of all this
Right.
program it tells us about.
Do I wish I'd have gotten sober so I could have enjoyed my kids at a younger age? Nah. Yeah, I do. But do I regret it? No, I don't have regrets. Katie and I just had that conversation. She said something. Do you regret this? I go, this one. I don't have any regrets. I don't.
I do, but I can't do nothing about them so much.
Yeah,
so
Well,
That's the way
I
I
want
look
to
at it,
be
too.
careful how I don't have regrets, right? I just don't. I don't have any regrets.
That's
I
good.
have some things that I ain't so happy about. Wish I'd have done different, right? But I don't regret anything.
now I don't sit here and beat myself over regrets,
No.
but I do have them.
But I'm comfortable with saying this right here. The man I am today, the man that I can be to that woman down there, the dad I can be to my two daughters, the grandpa I can be to those two, the father-in-law I can be to my two son-in-laws. I needed what I went through, and I know that, right? And I don't want to take any of it back. I don't. The mean stuff that I did to my wife, the mean stuff I said and did to my daughters, wish it never happened.
But it
Okay,
did.
so
But it did.
That's kind of a regret, though, isn't it?
But
If you wish it
isn't
never
a
happened-
regret something that you
okay,
battle with every day?
We're talking semantics as well.
Okay, you're
Yeah,
right.
thank
You're right.
you.
That's all.
Yeah. So
you're speaking one language and we're speaking another one. It's
I just don't have it. I mean,
because one of my, and I'm going to drop the, one of my,
I'll plug my ears.
One of my flipping
you got them on.
When people say that had to happen.
Right.
I had to go. I had to go through it.
No.
Well, then so the story I said last week with the 6-year-old boy.
Right.
Now go ask his mother.
Right.
Or go ask. Sit them down. Hey, let's finish up the story, because what he did was in the blackout almost beat her to death, put hands on the kids. Right. So now say he survived, the one that ate the bullet. Now he goes to make amends. Right. Hey, I'm sorry that I put my hand. I almost killed you. I know we're divorced, all that. By my ninth step, I'm supposed to do this because I got good fucking sponsorship, right? But sweetheart, and the kids, it had to happen. It had to happen that way, or I couldn't be the man I am today.
That's another way to look at it.
So do you think God agrees with that?
No.
Do you think she agrees with that?
No.
You think it's a good thing?
No.
So be careful. Words matter. God didn't care. God could have got me right here when I should have got off the bus when the doctor said, Mr. Thomas, your liver's this big. You're never going to walk your daughter down the aisle. Right. My wife's sitting there crying. I had to go on a little bit further. Right. I didn't have to. I chose to. I chose to pick it up again. Right. I chose to lie some more. I chose that shit. It didn't have to happen. Right. God could have got me right fucking here.
Yeah.
So which page are you going to quote right now? Because it's my favorite and I learned it after I read the book I don't know how many times, and it never stuck on to me until 64? We did. Yeah.
Top of page 64.
Tell it.
Our liquor was but a symptom. We had to get down to causes and conditions. Can't blame it. So, which means we weren't the men we were. Didn't behave the way we did because we drank and used. Mm-mm. We drank, behaved the way we did because the kind of men we were. But we needed the steps to reveal that. Right. God's power to restore that.
Yeah, and the reason I asked you that, Rob, is because so many people, and I was one of them. Why can't I put down the silver can? Why can't it's a can? Right. And I thought it was alcohol. And I've been sober a bit, and I still thought that for a lot of years until that jumped off the page again. Right? Yeah. Again, after all these and started thinking about that. That has nothing to do with it. It then becomes an allergy. Right. Right. But and so what I want people to understand is it's not the booze. It's you. It's your mind. Yeah. It's what's in here. That's the whole point of this program is to get in here and fix that and clean the house. And your obsession's gone. Then you don't have to drink.
Then God gives you, because with page 45 tell us that powerlessness was our dilemma. Yeah. Powerlessness. We had to get down. We had to find a power, but it wasn't alcohol. Powerlessness was your problem. You need to find a power.
So let me play devil's advocate again. Go ahead. And then I want to close this thing down.
Go ahead.
If I get clear of all that shit and I make myself right, do all that, why can't I go back to drinking?
Because we're not cured of alcoholism. What we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
Thank you, Rob.
We are recovering alcoholics. We are recovered from a hopeless state of body and mind, but we are not cured of alcoholism.
So that's what I was trying to get to.
You should play the devil's advocate again about people that say you're not recovered.
Well, just read the book. Just read the book. I'll show you 52 times in the book where that word is used.
That's what I say too. And I was a subscriber
not
to
52. I was auxiliary, but I'll show you every time it's used in the book.
Yeah, I was a subscriber to the other, right? Until again, we did some work, right? And I read in here and really get into it and say, no, recovered is the word in here, because I've heard it many times. Even some old timers, people have been around a bit. That's your opinion. You can have that. Yeah. I don't care. My opinion, I'm recovered.
I'm recovered.
Well, it's not my opinion. It's what the book says. Right. Yeah. The book. So I know it's never Rob's opinion. Rob's opinion will get you ain't worth 2 cents.
But you're still an alcoholic.
Always. Yeah. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
That's my point. Yeah. I'm recovered, but I'm still an alcoholic. Yeah.
Always. Yeah. If we pick up again, we're short quickly where we were left off.
What does Brad say? The hole's still there.
Yeah, we're still there.
We don't cover back in.
But again, like Lisa's story, when her sponsor said, no, baby, you're a good person. Right. Alcohol made you do it. The minute you take the onus off the person, they don't get to own their shit. Right. And I can blame this again.
That's a valid
That's where I'm
point.
going.
For sure.
That's a valid point.
Yep.
That's what scared me for a long time about sponsorship, right? I hadn't done enough work after that, first couple years. So I didn't feel comfortable being able to quote and or show someone the way it should be, right? Yeah, I can. And I just didn't feel good enough, right?
Fumble through it.
And then after we worked and did some stuff and started getting into it, right? I'm ready, Rob. Yeah. He's like, yeah, you are. You can go. Right. And that's what I asked for.
Johnny, what does Johnny O say that, that he was asked to be a sponsor 3 days sober, and he went to his sponsor and said, why is it? And he goes, well, just tell him how you put the 3 days together. Because his sponsor told him, no, you're a good sponsor.
He would say, Johnny, are you working with anybody?
Yeah.
He said, if his sponsor's name was, no, I'm only 3 days sober. Well, tell him how you got 3 days.
Tell him how you got 3 days.
It's so simple.
That's how you work with others. It's not necessarily sitting down and going through this, but
because you can't. But you can say, this is what I did to get 3 days.
Right.
But if you want to, this guy has.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Brad. What does Brad say? He likes to lead him to the trough. Lead him to water.
We're going to lead him too.
We will.
That guy's going to be a sponsor one of these days, and he's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Right. Brad will.
He's got to do. You can't give, the book says you cannot transmit that what you do.
And you know what? And as much as I say it all the time, sooner or later, God's going to hit me with one and go, you are going to take this one.
Absolutely. 100%. And you'll be damn good at it.
And I hope, and I pray I will.
Just do it.
Yeah. I hope and I pray better than I was last time. Right. Last time I was like, I knew I was not ready to sponsor. And I said, when I said earlier, I said yes stupidly because I was told never say no. And maybe I was told never say no.
Who said that? Yeah,
I hear people say that. Never say no. I should have told that guy at that point, listen, I will do anything you want. I will help you find a good sponsor, but I am not prepared to sponsor because I really wasn't. Even though I had about a year under my belt, I just wasn't in a mental state of mind to do it.
You didn't know that you could get him to a year because you'd already did it.
Right.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Hit me. Play devil.
Be careful when you do that.
Okay.
Because what did you guys just tell me? Rejection.
Oh, yeah.
Abandonment. People come in and listen, my wife made me sponsor another woman. And we'll get into that story later.
Yeah.
She made me. Anyway, which was awesome because that taught me some things. And I mean, I talked to people that felt this way about it, felt that way about it. And to the audience, I don't give a fuck what you feel about it. If I didn't ask your opinion, it's because I don't want it. I don't need it. However, what that taught me, men and women are different, but they're the same too.
What?
Yeah, but they're the same too. Rejection, abandonment. You tell a sponsee comes or a man comes up to you, it's hard enough to come up to another man to swallow. Would you help me? So if that does happen, my recommendation is, hey, I'm not ready. Whatever. If that's the stance you're going to take, but you take him by the hand. Hey, this is your sponsor.
Yes.
So
yes.
Don't just reject him.
Yes.
Hey, you're not leaving him on the line.
No, I would never do that.
I know you wouldn't.
No.
I've seen you get up and chase people out the door and be like, "Hey, man, you all right?"
Yeah.
So,
no, I
but
can't.
That was more for people at home.
Right. I know. I hurt when I see other people hurt. I hurt, even if I don't know them. I don't know if that's something
because they were rejected out there, abandoned out there when they come to the rooms. If that is your stance, here. But here's Doug. Doug is amazing. This will be your sponsor. I am not ready. I'm honored, but here you go. So give them. So at least they leave with what they wanted.
Here's my number. Call me.
Right.
Whatever that might be.
Like Doug said, I have chased people out of the room knowing that they are not in a good spot. Right. And yes,
and I haven't.
Oh, I don't know what it is.
I don't chase nobody.
Well,
anybody. Sorry,
I am sorry. I did. Grammar. I do because when I see that person hurting, and just even if they tell me, "Phone the fucker," I'm okay. Get away from me. All right, and go back in.
I admire that, Larry. I'm just saying, I do because I'm not going to do that.
Oh, I will.
But I'll sit there and go, man, I really should get up and go do that.
Oh no, I can't. I can't do that.
I do.
Well, then,
I wouldn't.
Okay. Well, then guess what, Doug? We got some work to do.
Because I will. I'll sit there. And I can tell you the exact meeting and person that you did that to. That's why I can say that.
Is he still around?
And he's sober.
Is he really?
Absolutely.
I thought I ran into him at another one, and he's never said anything to me, but I don't know if I had anything to do with it
I know what he said in the meeting that caused him to get up and why you got up.
Yeah. I chased him. I was just scared because he was driving over to the bay.
That's it. Yeah.
Scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I was not going to let that guy go. Yeah.
And to the point is, what you did, it was a seed, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then he got a sponsor. But regardless of that, he's in the, and he's just, and he's one of those guys that's 60 some years old.
Yeah, no, he's old.
Other people saw that, appreciate that. And now that other person, which is Doug, when that feeling comes up, when that thought comes up, we need to act upon that.
Right.
God dang it. Why'd I bring that up?
Right.
Because Doug's also, because you're going to have those times as more will be revealed. You'll have what I call them grocery store men. So you're going down. This person may not even been, or may have been, I don't know, Doug, may have been on your list or on that. I mean, I've had a few of those. And holy God snaps them.
I've had them.
The Spirit gives you that.
Yep.
Oh, I need to make amends. You make sure because you don't know if you're going to see that person again.
Right.
Yeah, I've got one that's been 3 times. That's why you're looking at me.
Right. I've been talking to somebody on the phone.
There's never a bad time to make something right.
I've been talking to somebody on the phone. It happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were talking as an old business associate I hadn't talked to in a while. And he's like, remember that time in Vegas, Bob? And he starts telling this story. And I'm like, fuck. Yeah. Hey, man, I got to tell you, this is before he knew I was sober, right? I mean, I don't pick up the phone. Hi, my name's Larry. I'm sober. That's just not something I do. So I was talking to him for a little bit and he goes, hey, remember that? And he starts talking. And I'm like, dude, I got to tell you something. And I told him about, my sober and visit. I said, what I did that night was not right. And, anyways, but that's that thing. And I honestly forgot about that until he brought it up. He was laughing about it, but he doesn't realize how much that affected me when he said it. That wasn't right of me. And it was just like
And sometimes those are the best ones. Like the one you had when you left Cindy's. We're going to grab that guy. Those are powerful.
That's one I had to do. That was on my amends list. I just didn't know how I was going to do it or if I was ever going to run into him. Or biggest thing.
Those are the ones that God wants done.
I didn't know how I was going to react when I saw the man because I had so much anger to the man for so many years.
Right.
I had so much anger to him. I didn't know how I was going to react. And when I saw his son walk in, I was like, my heart pitter patter, pitter patter, patter patter. And I'm like, and then just shortly behind it was the rest of the family. And I'm like, I immediately got up out of I immediately went out there and it was just like, it was one of my last ones because I hadn't done that one.
I think what I want to say right here is because I have the luxury of hearing, right, frequently and when you were first in doing the work, right. And you're not shy about saying it. Right. And you did it. Like you sought them out. You crossed them off the list. You said how hard. Well, yeah.
Oh, I put on my belt and went to work.
But that's what I'm like, holy.
Yeah, no, I read the part where the guy took off and didn't come back till midnight. And by God, that's what I was going to do.
And that is so uplifting. Right. And that's why I want people to hear that is that, man.
And the joy that comes.
It may sound easy, kind of. We're just kind of giggling around. There is some seriously hard work that goes in that, but my goodness, on the other side of that is blessings that come.
Blessing,
because
and listen, one of my things when we're doing, there's two reasons why when I have a man in the night step, what do I ask you guys? When today we got this, tomorrow's that one. We got it planned out. Call me when they're done. Call me when they're done for two reasons. One, so I know the fucking thing got done. Two, I love to hear how God, because there's always, man, we think God's going to work this way or God's going to work this way. They're going to respond like this, and it's never that way.
Never that way.
And I love hearing those blessings. It just keeps me, spiritually fit. That keeps me, God, just my faith in God so powerful, watching Him work.
Right.
When we do the work.
Right.
So
that's amazing. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, that's the best part. And I've heard them all. I've heard Rob. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
I'm just glad you're sober. Rob, hey, you know what, Rob, that did hurt, and I appreciate you coming back. Right. Rob, I hope you die and choke on. Don't get fucked. I've heard all. But whatever, I did my job.
Right. Only responsible for my side.
Clean up my side of the street.
But
majority of them are overwhelmingly positive.
Right.
And either way, I grow.
It's good to think that everybody knows that we had a problem,
right.
And you need to get help.
Yeah.
I mean. Like I said, I've talked about it. I got one that I still haven't been able to do.
Two by heart, the two hardest ones I've ever done. My parents, I was standing over their grave writing with letters.
Yeah.
You and me both.
Thank God I didn't have to do that. Thank God I didn't have to do that.
Never mind.
Those are the toughest ones for me.
I did my dad, right? He's my hero, but was a horrible father. Horrible, right? And snot in there, up there, freezing out in the. Here's the grave, and my grandparents next to him. I gave them one too while I was there because they deserve that. But my little son walks over, and I'm reading this out loud. I forget how old. He's probably 5.
Yeah.
4.
Remember you telling us this once before.
And he, I'm trying to read it and crying, snot going everywhere, in the cemetery, freezing cold. And he comes over and puts his hand on me, man. Dad, you all right? And like, fuck, man. I'm like, yeah, I'm never better. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But, holy moly, right?
Yeah.
But that's the heart, and you're thinking it's not going to happen. I can't do this. Oh, that's fear.
That's fear.
Right.
Preventing you.
And we don't make a decision based on
We don't do that.
Never.
You're going to walk through that, and it's the single. It's just that's the big step, man. Clearing it out of the way.
I had to get a big contract done this last Friday, and yesterday. It had to be done. It was on the cusp, and it wasn't getting the answers I was wanting, and I had the fear of turning that contract in the way it was written. And I just was not happy with it. And I was like, you know what, Lord, this is up to you. And I sent it. I did. Honestly, I have never been that. Somebody
we should talk about fear more.
We need to cover that. But I was sitting there and I was stressed because I was waiting for some other numbers, and I was going back and forth, and I was stressed, and I finally was like, you know what? I added some to the contract and sent it. I'm like, you know what? It's up to God. Here, you know, I just let it go.
And watch him work.
I just let it go. And Katie asked me, did you get that done? I go, yeah. How do you feel about it? I don't know. I feel okay. It's up to God now. I let it go. Because when you hit send, it's gone.
Can't ring the bell, baby.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there. The contract was written up, sitting on my thing, and I was just sitting there staring at it. And I'm like, huh.
Sponsorship. I think Larry's going to be a great sponsor.
He'll be fine.
If I don't chase him out of the room.
It takes a village.
It'll be good.
Yeah. You know what? Like I said, I'm good right now, and God's got me right where He wants me right now, and I'm good with that. If He brought one to me and hit me over the head with it, I got one right now that I think is waiting for me to say something, but I ain't going to.
Okay, yeah.
It's up to Him.
If they don't have the desire,
right?
You want to do something?
There's one sitting there, and I think he's waiting for me to say, "Well, I'll go ahead and do it," but I ain't gonna. Right? Nah, I've done that. I've done that one time, right. And I chased that same guy. I chased out of my house. I ain't never doing it again. You know, if somebody wants that, they're gonna ask me, and I'm gonna wait for God to tell me this is the one. And I don't know. Like I said, I just don't want to be that. I want to sponsor in God's timing, not in my timing.
Yeah, and that's what'll happen. That's what we pray for, or at least what I pray for, right?
All right, you guys ain't got to go, but you got to get the fuck out of my house.
You got it.
I guess.
You know what, Doug? Thank you, man. Thank you for coming. You know, since we started this thing, there's, several people that I've been wanting to get up in the studio, and you are one of them. You're definitely one of them. There's a few more out there. We got 5 or 6 more that are very excited to get in here. Everybody, I'm excited to get in here because you know what? It doesn't matter what topic we go through. It doesn't matter. It's just getting the word out there, and we're continuing going to do this. This is going to be episode number 10 when it drops, so pretty excited about that.
Hey, even numbers.
We are on anniversary numbers with you, Doug. We are on anniversary.
This is a great day. I mean, some anniversary days. Some really.
I'm going to name this podcast this episode Anniversary Podcast. Right? Anniversary. I don't know, something.
Well, God's got something good going.
Yeah, so I'm happy with it. I'm going to continue to do it. We are, like I said, we're on episode 10. We're well over 1,000 listeners now. It's moving. Super excited. I want to remind everybody again, hopefully nobody left early, that our email has changed. It is recoveryunfilteredpodcast. That's recoveryunfilteredpodcast.
Thank you, Miranda. See, I thought McKenna gave it to you the day when we were doing the last podcast.
It was that same night, but it was because I left to go to the jail right when we were done. That's recording, right. And when I got home, McKenna had already left, and Miranda and my grandbabies were here. Okay. That's what we were talking about us recording and everything. She goes, "Dad, you really got to change that. I'm sick and tired of listening to."
So what is it, Nate? Say it one more time.
Recovery Unfiltered app. No, sorry. Learning. Recovery Unfiltered Podcast at gmail.com.
Simple.
Yeah, it's very simple. And now I'm very happy with that. So we will be starting a website. We are moving forward with all the other social media stuff. So I'm excited for that. So hopefully that'll be up and running fairly soon, so we can start getting more ways for everybody to be in touch, with the hotlines and everything else going on. So I'm excited.
Questions, topics.
Yeah.
Nice.
Send them in that emails. Let us know. Be in touch with us. Subscribe. Give us some ratings. Get this thing out there. Get it rolling. I want everybody to know we got to save somebody, if not everybody. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's get out of here, boys. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you learned something today that will help you.
If you did not, come back next week and we'll try again.
If you like what we heard, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what you heard, kiss my ass. You can't say that, can you? Anyway, if you don't like what you heard, go ahead and tell us that too. We'll see what we can improve. We probably won't change nothing, but do it anyway.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Come back next week and hopefully something will be different and something will sink in. Take care.
This has been Recovery Unfiltered.